I'm seeing it on my other
There we are.
profile.
Well, good evening, chat. I think we've got a very special guest here who decided to hop in and join me in my own little tiny special plane of oblivion here. This is Nish from Nishquik Pops, a channel that I've really grown to love and be accustomed to. Especially now that I'm starting to be able to dive into a little bit of the Xenoblade content
Oh,
that he
yes.
produces. So,
Yeah.
tell everybody a little bit about yourself. I'm sure they know more about you than they know about I, but go ahead and tell everybody a little bit about yourself, and pretend like they don't.
Oh, yeah. Well, hey guys, Nishquik here. I love talking about all things Nintendo and JRPGs. I initially, like, a little history about my channel. I started it like 2 years back, and it was initially only about game analysis and reviews and very like meticulous analysis videos. And it was a very, very niche kind of like set of videos that I was making. And then I was like, hey, I always think about like what's happening in the gaming industry, how I truly feel about games, just very casual discussions about how I feel about games, even like the storylines, characters, all that stuff. So this year I kind of broke out of that like niche shell and started talking about a whole lot of things relating to just general video games, Nintendo, JRPGs. I try not to talk about video game news that much. My kind of theme is I try to talk about video game experiences. So what video games made me feel like, how they made me feel, how they impacted me, and how I feel about things happening in the gaming space right now. So yeah, I mostly cover Nintendo and JRPGs, and that's what I do. And yeah, like Mr. Mungunzu said, I'm a huge Xenoblade fan, so we will be talking about Xenoblade as well quite a bit.
Well, and I got to tell you, you do a good job, man. Like
Thank you. I
you do.
really appreciate
Yeah, I
it.
think I think you look at things from a very interesting angle, and you catch my attention more often than not. You know how the attention economy is. It's tough out there,
Yeah,
especially when you're in a red ocean doing what a million other fucking people are doing. Which is what
yeah,
we're doing here in the video game space. There's literally a
yeah,
billion fucking people just like us doing this, and the
yeah.
fact that you can grab
I
that
try to
attention and
set
stand
myself
out,
apart from as much as I can
do good.
from other people doing Nintendo and JRPG content.
Quick
But
shout
yeah.
out, we got a legit VIP in the chat. Cold Nights Gaming is here. What's going on, buddy?
Oh, what's up? Oh, hey guys. Hey, I
Yep.
see people in the
and,
chat.
and
Hello.
Mandia is here too.
Jay and
Well,
Mandy,
I
what's
am
up?
I
How's it
am
going?
honored because I was gonna say usually this is around the time that Cold starts streaming, so I definitely want to try to catch some of that if we can too tonight, and hopefully we'll see you
Yeah.
there too, man. Um,
Oh yeah, for sure.
Shout outs to both Miss Mandia and Cold Nights Gaming as well. If you are
Okay.
not subscribed to those two, what are you doing with your life? Like go correct your life and subscribe to them. And also subscribe to Nish. Like just genuinely good content all around. So we got some fun people here. But just wanted to do that quick aside because yeah, I wanted to give shout outs. These guys are both awesome. But
Yeah.
yeah, so I guess the question I always like to start out with and kind of get on a common ground with everybody is there's always that game that was your introductory into video games. So what was your entry point into this hobby?
Oh, that's tough because I have many entry points. So I guess you can say, oh, I have many that I could say is an entry point. Like, my first ever video game that I like was gifted and I played myself was Spider-Man on the PS2. I still have it on my shelf, like right there. It is the first Tobey Maguire Spider-Man game, and I got it on the PS2, and that was for Christmas when I got a PS2. This is before I was a Nintendo guy, and like I feel kind of bad because like I had a PS2, but I never played a lot of games on it. But Spider-Man was my first like game that I really played. The games that like really really got me into like really hooked on video games were the Generation 3 Pokemon games. So Leaf Green, Fire Red, Sapphire,
Okay.
Emerald, those ones. But I will say this. I like to like take some games and like remember them as like turning points in my video game life, right? And like my trajectory when it comes to like the different video games I played. The
That's one of
biggest
the
turning point for
things.
me.
I
Yeah.
love about your
Yeah.
channel is how you
Yeah.
relate. You do something very similar to what I do, and that is you
Mhm.
will take and you will relate a certain game to a certain moment in your life. And I think that's so honest and refreshing because most people, they do it. They don't even know
Yeah.
they do it, but they do it. They just haven't examined that. A lot of folks that I think
Yeah.
in this space.
Oh yeah, definitely. And yeah, like I said, it's all about video game experiences for me, like how my experiences in life or with games or with media and technology has changed when it comes to video games. I think they're the best media and best entertainment outlet that we have. So I think that we can get the best kind of experiences from video games. But I will say, the turning point video game for me, the first real massive turning point video game for me is still my favorite video game of all time today, and it is Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. And I say that because after I played Ocarina of Time, I never looked at anything the same ever again. I never looked at video games the same. I never looked at music or movies or stories or media the same ever again. You might say, Ocarina of Time, that's so silly. Like, it's just a normal game. For me, it like flipped everything upside down. I was like, I did not know video games could have stories that played so well with the narrative and it like interweaves the gameplay and the story so well. On top of that, had a really powerful, moving, impactful soundtrack that was actually like part of the gaming experience. Like you're
Oh
playing the
yeah.
music, you're playing the ocarina, all that, and it was just a really good game that I played at that part, like at that time of my life. I was around the same age as Young Link when I played the game, so it's still a game that I like remember and look back to now as a really big turning point in video games for me. So yeah.
Well, that's an
And
interesting
I
point you
have
make.
other big turning point video games as well, like Fire Emblem Awakening is another, Xenoblade Chronicles is another, uh, Persona 4 is another, but Ocarina of Time is the one that like changed everything.
So we'll start with that one since that was kind of the main gateway. That was the there were other games that came before, but it sounds like Ocarina was that gateway game that really got you into things and solidified it.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is what I want to do with my life as far as in terms of my interests, which is
Mhm.
everybody has that game, and mine was
Mhm.
actually Super Mario Brothers. I go way back on this.
Yeah.
But Ocarina of Time, I've got to tell you, that's an interesting point you make about Zelda had always played with music, but Ocarina of Time really did meld that to where you were actually making some of that legendary music yourself and really
Yeah.
kind of spun that directly into the narrative in a way that hadn't been
Yeah.
done before. So I never
Yeah.
thought of it that way, but that's actually
Yeah.
very true. Not to
Because
mention that
yeah.
Zelda was Ocarina of Time was that bridge game. If you look at
Yeah.
Ocarina, I mean, even Dark Souls and games of that nature, we're still using
Mhm.
fucking Z targeting to this day. Still.
Yes, and Miyazaki always points out Zelda as a very big inspiration for him. And a lot of people don't
Good.
realize that nowadays. A lot of people don't realize how influential and how groundbreaking Ocarina of Time was, not only with Z targeting, with just general adventure games, third person adventure games. A lot of this wouldn't be like possible without Ocarina of Time. It's kind of like a snowball effect. It's not like, oh, every single video game looks back at Ocarina of Time. It's just kind of like a snowball effect, you know? And when I started playing PS3 games, I was like, oh, whoa, I remember all these like things from Ocarina. Like even like don't quote me on this. I think GTA 4 had like a lock-on system, and when I realized that, I was like, "Oh, lock-on in Grand Theft Auto, but only Zelda does that." And I was like, I was still very young, and I thought that was very funny. But like, I was like, "Wow, it's something that started off in this game, but is used so many years later." So yeah,
I think there's
and I would
always
say, yeah.
something to appreciate, even in the games that we criticize. And what I mean by
Oh
that
yeah, yeah,
is, I now to kind of give you my own Zelda journey, I adored Zelda 1, I adored
mhm,
Zelda 2, adored Zelda 3, and I did like Ocarina of Time. It's one of the N64 games I really played and finished.
yeah,
But that was the beginning of me for where I could see Nintendo going with that series. And what I
yeah,
mean by that is it still had um, the dark fantasy vibes. It still
hmm.
had the legendary storytelling. I mean, actually, probably one of the best aspects of that, along with A Link to the Past.
Yeah, it's a very simple story, but it's still a very It's if you look into it, it's a really, really good narrative. Even some of the dialogue and the writing is very, very, very well done
Well,
in Ocarina
legendary
of Time.
stories often are very simple. I think we were talking in chat one day, and I had
Oh, yeah.
I was talking to you and Samuel, who Samuel's here too, by the way. Shout out to Samuel. Thanks for stopping
Yo,
in.
Sammy, what's up?
Yeah, but I think I was talking to you and Samuel, and I think I asked you guys the question because we were talking about storytelling and legendary storytelling versus a more narrative focused storytelling.
Yeah.
And the question I always ask is, can you please elaborate on the character traits of King Arthur?
Yeah.
Please describe the internal motivations of Guinevere or Merlin. Um, and the question and the reason I say that is because you can't. That's not what legendary storytelling is trying to do. It's
Yeah.
not a more character focused story as opposed to something like Xenoblade, which is very much character focused.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
Xenoblade is very, very character driven. We'll talk about that in a bit, but
oh, certainly,
yeah,
but
I right now prefer the more character driven stories because
sure,
I'm right now in my real like full force JRPG era
right.
where I'm
The
loving a lot of
JRPG
really
arc.
well, yeah, I'm loving a lot of very character driven stories. Of course, Xenoblade is one. I am I am dipping my toes more into Final Fantasy. We'll talk about that as well. But a lot of these JRPG stories are I think they have a nice balance of the legendary big lore and plot and all that stuff, but then they're also very character driven. It's like a hero's journey. Like a lot of people describe Xenoblade 2 as sort of like I remember I told this to you because one of my friends told this to me. I didn't really believe them until I really thought about it. It's sort of like the Odyssey, but it's not. And I say that because initially when I played Xenoblade 2, I was like, why is all this random stuff happening? But then when you get to the end, which you aren't at the end, I won't tell you what happens, but when you get to the end, you kind of understand why all that stuff happened.
I'm
You're
getting
just like,
ready. I'm getting ready to
yeah.
make the climb.
Oh,
I'm getting ready to make the
yes.
climb. I've got to tell you, I love and see that's God. I love
Yeah.
love love what you just said. I have been
Yeah.
trying to think because that's one of the things I do that a lot is what is the reference point? What is this game's North Star? For Xenoblade 1, it
Yeah.
was obviously the Count of Monte Cristo. It was things like Prometheus Unbound. But I was really stuck and torn on what is the North Star of Xenoblade 2, and I think you might have hit it on the fucking head.
The
I think
Odyssey.
it's the Odyssey. I think it's the
Yeah.
Odyssey, maybe Inferno, but no, I think it's more the Odyssey,
Yeah,
honestly, because
I'm curious what you think about Xenoblade 3 as well, because Xenoblade 3 is very similar to 2 in some of its themes,
I can
but
see
it does
Logan's
a lot
run. I
of
can see Logan's run
okay,
all day long in Xeno
yeah.
3, but I'm sure there's other
Xenoblade
aspects.
3 is the most philosophical, I think. Actually, no, Xenoblade 2 is very philosophical.
I was gonna
3,
say, holy
it just
shit.
it really makes you think.
I was gonna say,
It
if
doesn't,
you can be more philosophical than 2 and 1, that's pretty wild.
yeah,
Because
yeah.
those are all games of big ideas.
Yeah,
Big ideas.
I'm really happy you're enjoying too because I have tried to get a lot of people into this series and it's just not worked out. They
Well,
don't really get what's happening with the
so
game.
let's talk about that a little bit because
Yeah,
I will say that I had to learn to love to. Okay,
yeah,
I had to learn to love it. I did,
yeah,
but to give you a little bit of background on Xenoblade 2, this is not my first foray into Xeno 2. Actually, my first foray into Xenoblade 2, I was so chomping at the fucking bit to play this game when it came out in December 2017, and I
yeah,
played it, and it right after the battle, the first battle with Bridget and
yeah,
the Empress, I kind of tapped out, which is
yeah,
a
yeah.
shame because the next Titan is fucking a stunner. It's gorgeous.
Oh, oh my God,
Um,
Araya is one of my
oh, I
favorite
could
locations
explore that
ever.
fucking
Yeah,
place all day long and not get bored.
yeah.
Uh,
No, yeah,
I said
yeah.
the whole time, I said I want to see a place that rivals Satori Marsh in terms of just
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
ethereal
that's
beauty.
Satoru Marsh. Yeah, yeah,
Satori Marsh at night, and they did it. They did it with yeah. That place is awesome.
yeah,
But what I mean by learn to love. So let's talk a little bit about that. So um, immediately you're thrown into a world full of people that all seem extraordinarily self-serving, with the one
yeah.
exception of your naive little dipshit of a character. You
Yes.
are. thrust into a combat system that could give a shit less about teaching you or
Uh,
explaining this to you.
I'm very curious to see what you like did with the combat and how you like got accustomed to it as well.
So you sent
Because
me a while
yeah.
back. You sent me a couple channels, and I wish I could
Oh, I
remember them to
do.
shout out. Maybe you remember
Yeah.
them for the
Yeah, it's
combat.
a for me it's a NL. NL is the person who
NL,
like even
yes,
Xenoblade 1, halfway through Xenoblade 1 when I was playing, I was telling my friend, I was like, dude, I don't know what's happening. Like I don't know, I don't think I'm doing any of this right. And he's like, first of all, if
spikes,
you're this far
spikes,
into the game, you're doing it right.
yeah,
And I was like,
spikes.
okay, thanks for reassuring me. But then he was like, oh, check out these channels, check out these videos. And like the big one was NL. Like NL helped me through Xenoblade 1, Xenoblade 2, and Xenoblade 3 is a lot easier to get started with, but I still watched him to like get the optimal builds for a lot of characters. So he's one, Chucky Conroy is another who like has a few guides, but NL is the guy to watch if you are confused about Xenoblade 2 gameplay and
And we
combat.
got another person who just popped in. Mad Kaiser, yo, what's going on, buddy? Thanks for
Oh, it's Mad
stopping in.
Kaiser here.
Mad
Hello.
Kaiser's
What's
here,
up?
yeah. So,
Guys, subscribe to Mad Kaiser. He's almost at 500 subs.
oh,
And if
this
he's at
okay.
500,
So,
he'll do a Chrono Trigger review. So subscribe to him for
oh
Chrono
hell, I'm
Trigger.
always up for a Chrono Trigger review. That's one of the
Yeah.
greatest games ever made. So fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for stopping in, man. Hope get comfy. Before we get on Xenoblade real in deep, because we're gonna balls deep into this shit. But before we
Mhm.
do that, what are you drinking tonight, if anything? I've got a
Oh,
in honor of your
yeah, what do you
JRPG
have?
love. I've got the very popular thing that I'm drinking here, and there's the cork sound, and that is an 18-year single malt Japanese whiskey.
I have water right now, but
Water.
earlier I had a few Angry Orchards,
Angry
and
Orchards are
I
good.
mean, yeah,
Yeah.
Angry Orchards are all right. I just had them in the fridge, and I just wanted to finish them.
Yeah, I'm starting to get into the hard ciders. I just tried the golden apple strongbow.
Yeah, I'm
With
not a huge cider guy. I like I'm the only one out of my friends who likes IPAs, and it's kind of sad.
IPAs are an acquired taste, but once you find a good one, you'll never let go of them.
Yeah,
That's kind of the thing with
yeah,
IPAs. But anyway, as an aside, so Xenoblade, I feel like Xenoblade 1 and Xenoblade 2, in terms of their combat systems, had opposite problems in terms of the
yeah,
spectrum. What I mean by that is Xenoblade 1 is a game that starts extraordinarily simple and gradually builds in complexity to a level where you start to struggle. The
yeah,
I
yeah.
think they do a good job
I
for the
think you're
most part.
the thing about one is when you figure out like cheese tactics like the topple locking, then
Right.
the combat is very trivialized
Right.
and it just gets very easy. And it's kind of sad. I love Xenoblade 1 so much. I love the game a lot,
Me
but
too.
I really have to say, out of the four Xenoblade games, out of the four main Xenoblade games, 1, 2, 3, and X,
Okay.
Xenoblade 1 has the worst combat in my opinion.
Oh,
And worst
okay.
combat doesn't mean bad. It just is the most like bare bones simple.
Well, to me, Xenoblade, in terms of its combat trajectory, all the Xeno games that I've played, it's almost like we are in an alternative world where the JRPG continued to evolve in a
Yeah.
direction going from Chrono Trigger to Final Fantasy 12 and then to Xenoblade. The way it's
Yes,
combat,
yeah.
it's almost like a more MMO style direction in some ways.
Yes.
Certainly
Yeah,
inspired by
Xenoblade
some.
took a lot of inspiration from Final Fantasy 12 from what I have
Yes,
heard.
yes.
Yeah.
And again, I've never played Final Fantasy 12, but I've seen enough videos on it to where I can see exactly what it was doing with the Gambit system. I see a lot of similar automatic pilot references you can do in Xenoblade. But
You
you're
wanna know a
talking,
funny story?
yeah,
A funny yeah, so basically, one of my, like, another person I know, he enjoyed Xenoblade. He loved the story, but he hated the combat. He was like, "Oh, this combat is so lame. I don't like the auto attacks. I don't like the flipping like, switching the arts and all that," right?
right.
And then, like a year or so later, after he played Xenoblade 1, he sees this trailer for Final Fantasy 12, and he's like, "Oh my god, this game looks so good! This game looks so amazing! I need to play this game. It's so cinematic and like so cool. I need to play it." And I was like, "Oh yeah, yeah, go ahead, play it. Let me know what you think. Come
Okay.
back to me and let me know what you think." And I didn't tell him anything. I was like, "I'm not gonna say anything about the gameplay. I'm not gonna say anything. Just I was like, yeah, yeah, Final Fantasy 12 looks awesome. Like, come back to me and let me know what you think." Right? And, and then a day later, he's like, "So it's good, but the combat is like Xenoblade," and then he never played it ever again.
Oh, Okay, well that's a bummer, but I mean that's really funny how yeah, he kind of got set
Yeah.
up for that, but yeah,
Yeah,
and now
I thought that was funny.
now juxtapose that with Xenoblade 2, which is a system that actually gets easier as you learn it.
Yeah,
Once you learn its intricacies, you've learned its intricacies. It's not gonna show up with a brand new fucking mechanic like spiking, like
yeah.
Xenoblade does 3 quarters through
Oh,
the
it's
fucking
like,
game.
yeah, no.
Yeah, not
Yeah,
gonna show up with anything like that. Once you learn it, but it doesn't give a fuck about teaching you about that combat system.
yeah.
There's one aspect in particular. There's the early fight with Malos, and it
Mhm.
introduces like three goddamn things in one battle
Yeah, it
that you're
teaches you blade specials, blade combos, and
right.
elemental blade attacks all at once, and the tutorials are dreadfully
Dog
bad.
shit.
The
Dog
tutorials
shit.
are very bad, and I like as much as I praise Xenoblade 2, there's a lot of problems with it. One is the tutorials. The tutorials are not good. They don't teach you very well. You can't refer back to them at all. There's just a lot wrong with those
Right. Now,
tutorials.
and then also the fact that you can't it doesn't let you access your chain attacks until later in the game.
Yeah, I
And
have that problem as well.
there are
Yeah,
some mega opponents that you can't even touch without, or they become at least very hard without those chain
yeah,
attacks to me. So that was a little bit
yeah.
of an issue.
And I found it weird going from Xenoblade 1's very standard normal gear system to the accessory system of 2
Right.
because I was like, "Oh, I just want to up my defense and my HP, but like I have to like use all these weird accessories which don't do the right thing." And like the time I really had to like learn how to use the accessories and pouch items was the boss of chapter 3, which was Malos and Akos in Uriah and the Olethra ruins.
Yeah.
And that was because Malos was using the shackle blade attack where
Hmm.
like your affinity with your blades is dropped.
Hmm.
And like I was like, oh, now I have to use the shackle resistant accessory, and I was like, it was a little confusing. But once I got the hang of it, it like it all worked out. Like Xenoblade 2's combat is very good. It's a
Yeah.
nice like one thing leads to another kind of thing. Like auto attacks lead to your arts lead to specials, your specials
Yeah.
lead to blade combos, your blade combos lead to chain attacks. And that's really nice. That whole flow is really good. I
That's
like
actually
how it
that's
did that.
probably the best way I've actually heard that explained. Is just
Yeah.
kind of a simple flow chart of that. And
Yeah.
I
It's a
just wish
snowball.
Monolith Soft could have figured that shit out from day one. If they ever remake the game in a definitive edition, I would
Oh
like
my
to see that
god.
addressed because I would love more people to get into this goddamn game because it's so good. And I promise
Yeah.
we're about to get into what I love about it. I promise, Chad.
Yeah.
But
No, yeah,
basically,
Xenoblade 2, like the whole series, 1, 2, and 3,
yeah,
the biggest like barrier of entry is the gameplay and the combat. And I keep telling people, I'm like, oh, once you just like stick through it, you'll understand, you'll get used to it. I know it's not for everyone, and that's fine. But I'm like, don't be overwhelmed with the UI, don't be overwhelmed with the mechanics. Once you get used to it, it's fine. But at least be open-minded to give it a shot. But I will say that Xenoblade X and Xenoblade 2 did not do a very good job with onboarding at all. Xenoblade
right.
1 has pretty good tutorials. Xenoblade 3 has exceptionally good tutorials, so exceptionally good that they're overbearing. There are times when Xenoblade 3's tutorials like stopped me in the middle of the game and said, "I'm gonna hold your hand and tell you how to go through the menu." And I'm like,
Which is
"Stop, I
going
know."
to annoy the shit out of me. You know my gaming taste. It's
Yeah.
going to annoy the fuck out of me. But I
Yeah,
get
like
it, given
Xenoblade
the
2 is
yeah,
one end of the spectrum, Xenoblade 3 is a far end of the spectrum, and Xenoblade 3 went to another end of the spectrum in a very good way.
right,
But I will say,
better
like, if
than
they find a good medium, then that's good. That's perfect.
and you
Yeah.
mentioned Xenoblade One with that. Let me give you my Xenoblade One story because it actually starts with the Nintendo Wii. So that was the first time I
Oh, yeah.
completed Xenoblade One was on the Wii. And I was actually I don't want to overinflate my role here because I was simply a petition signer and a pest.
Yeah.
That's what I did for the movement, but I was actually part of the original Project Rainmaker effort.
That's
So
good.
I was part of
I
getting that
yeah.
here.
I
And
was very young and I thought it was very stupid because I was just like a kid and I was like, what is this Operation Rainfall? Like, who cares if these games come to the West or not? I don't care. And then like I realized what it actually was and I was like, okay, this is pretty
it
cool.
was a huge, yeah, it was a huge victory, and it was a huge
Yeah.
victory for a couple of reasons. Number one, it did allow us to get Xenoblade and other games from Nintendo. And in the Xenoblade review, I actually liken our fight to the fight of Shulk and his friends against the Titan. Because essentially that's what we were trying to do. We are trying to change a Titan's perspective. And we
Yeah.
actually, despite the odds being against us, we prevailed. We
Yeah.
actually shook the heavens. We changed that. And
You
not only
changed the future.
we changed the
I got my
future,
Monado back there. So
but
yeah, you
not
changed the
only
future.
did we change the future in terms of the games we got, but it also made Nintendo examine region locking, which is one of the massive reasons for the Switch's success.
Yes,
Lack of
yes,
region
yes.
lock. So Xenoblade, so that's kind of my Xenoblade 1 story. I played it on the Wii, and I loved Xenoblade on the Wii. Now the issue I had with Xenoblade on the Wii is an issue that they actually fixed in the definitive edition.
Yeah.
And that is almost, I will say, and that is the fact that the leveling in Xenoblade 1 very
Yeah.
uneven. If you are two levels lower, you get wiped. If you are
Yeah,
two
yeah, that's
levels
not
over,
good. Yeah.
you wipe them. And now,
Yeah, basically, if you're like within the range of 6 levels with your opponent, you have a chance. If you're below 6 levels, then you'll
forget
get
about it.
wiped.
Forget about it.
I know someone who tried to fight the final boss and they were like 7 levels below and they could not even land a hit. And I'm
Yep,
like, oh, come on.
you miss everything. And I hated that because the problem is, and here was the problem with Xenoblade 1, and it's compounded it. There were a billion fucking side quests, and you want to do them all. And if you do the billion fucking side quests, you're going to be 7 levels above your enemies. For the most of the game, you're
Mhm.
going to be well above their level. And whether you're 7 above or whether you're 3 above, the ideal fight to have a good time and have a challenging, good, fair fight is going to be the exact level of that fucking boss. And you couldn't do it if you were doing side quests in Xenoblade 1.
Yeah,
It's Definitive Edition, and they fixed that shit. They allow you,
expert mode.
yes, well, yes, where they allow you to fix your level to the bosses.
Yeah,
Every boss fight, every single boss fight was incredible in that game because I was the
yeah,
same exact level, with the exception of the
yeah,
end game. Because at the end of the game, you start to get that grind again, where okay, now all of a sudden there's a big level jump. But I will tell you, the balance in Xenoblade 1 is almost perfect throughout the entire game
yeah,
until the very end. And then there's like a 10 level gap you've got to close, whether you're doing the
yeah.
side quest, in game side quests, or doing the end game itself. All the
Mhm.
enemies suddenly spike in level, and you have a grind to do. I hated that, but literally that's the
Yeah,
only qualm I have was Xenoblade Chronicles, and they fixed it. They fixed that for the most part in Xenoblade
yeah.
1. Now Xenoblade 2, this is what I love about it. I've not felt any of that whatsoever.
Mm,
I have always felt, even doing a lot of side quests, that I'm exactly where I should be with that game, and it
mhm.
feels magical. So that's part of it. And then the other part of it is just thematically, I love how it is in juxtaposition to Xenoblade 1. And Xenoblade 1, the story I told is the story of you are a person who is fighting against insurmountable odds. In Xenoblade 2, you are in a world that is on its way out.
Yeah, yeah,
This is a world that is, everybody's kind of waiting for it to end. You are in a
yeah,
place of rampant nihilism, of darkness. The people around you are all evil and wicked for the most part, and self-interested. And you've got this one little dipshit that will not give up. And over the course of the game, I literally like just fell in love with this character
yeah,
because here's the thing, like, and part of it is also that I'm also playing this in conjunction with Fear and Hunger. But
mm,
one of the things that that game teaches you, and what Xenoblade teaches you, is there are things that are going to happen that are beyond your control. There are, one day, you know, a Titan may go down, or in the smaller instances of our own life, we might fail. Somebody we know might get sick, or somebody we know might get hurt, or somebody might
yeah,
lose out on that promotion they want. But the thing we can do is take what we have and try. And
yeah,
Rex has that attitude of just never give up. and literally attempting to do everything he can to fix these broken people around him and hold them up.
Yeah.
And like, I didn't think it could be a more brotastic character than Ryan, and here he fucking is.
Yeah, and yeah, what's great about each of the protagonists is they're different in their own way. Rex is the most different out of all of them in a very good way. And I will also say that I like Rex's growth the most because there are so many people in the game in Xenoblade 2 who either straight up at first don't like him or they're very like critical of
Yeah,
him. They're like, "Hey,
me.
why are you like even like especially like the I like to call them the parents of the group, Zeke and Morag. They're always onto Rex like, "Hey Rex, why are you doing this? Hey, why are you feeling this way? Why did you make this choice?" They're always asking him why he's doing what he's doing, and he always has like a very good, proper, very earnest answer for everything. And especially when you get later into the game, he's matured so much, and he's like, "Hey, I've gone through all these experiences, and here's what I learned, and here's like how we're gonna make it better." And yeah, like the game is really truly about like dealing with hardship, dealing with like pain and misery. Because so many characters, I won't say exactly who, but
Right,
almost
I'm gonna
every
tiptoe it too because I don't want to spoil anything for
yeah,
anybody.
yeah, almost every single character in that game has dealt with some hardships in their past. And that's what I love about the characters in 2. They have really good, profound, emotional, impactful backstories, unlike the characters in 1. And that's not to like say the characters in 1 aren't very good, but like the characters in 2 are a little more relatable because of their emotional backstories. And because of those backstories, they are a little more jaded because of just the circumstances they live in with what's happening with all rest. And then they meet Rex and they're like, "Oh, this guy is dumb." Like as you say, he's a
Yeah,
stupid
yeah,
dipshit. And it's
yes.
like yeah, and then eventually they come to realize like, "Hey, he has a goal.
He hasn't
I
given
don't know
up.
if yeah, he's like and they actually like say to themselves they're like, "I don't know if this goal is like legitimate. I don't know if we're going to make it, but I want to see it through to the end because of this guy."
I have
Because
two
of
predictions, by the way. Don't spoil.
I won't confirm nor deny,
Okay,
obviously.
I have two predictions, but for posterity, I want to throw both these scenarios out there. Okay, there's one thing I think there's one thing place I think they're gonna go, and there's one place that I hope they go.
Okay.
And if they go where I think it's going, this might be one of my favorite RPG stories ever.
All
If they
right.
go in
No
the
no
other
spoilers
direction,
in the comments, by the way, guys.
no spoilers in the
Obviously.
comments, please. But this is just speculation. I'm getting ready to make the climb, which means I've been through a couple of places that are hinted at in the story, but I don't want to spoil anything for anybody in the chat either. But basically, I've been through some areas that have confirmed some of my worst fears about what happened to some of these other titans. And I'm getting
Okay.
ready to make the climb up the tree.
Okay, so you've been to Spirit Crucible.
Yes,
So I know you've been there.
we're
Okay.
getting ready to just. I'm basically right at where we start the big climb up the tree to Elysium.
Okay.
Here's what I
So what are your predictions? I want to know.
here's what I think is going to happen. I think if this is anything like the Odyssey or the Land Before Time, which is one that just popped in my head,
Yeah.
the Great Valley, the journey to the Great Valley, I think they're going to find the Great Valley. And I think
Okay.
that maybe that'll open up an act 2 where they start to try to move all these nihilistic people to there. I think that's where they're going to go.
Ooh,
I hope I'm wrong because it's a bitch out ending. Because thematically, where the game needs to go is Rex needs to get up to Elysium and
yeah.
find nothing.
Okay.
And find absolutely nothing.
Okay.
And if that happens,
When are you gonna complete this game? Like approximately when do
I'm
you think you will
probably
be done?
I don't know where am I at in the game because I'm literally at the base of the tree basically.
Okay, I will say you're getting near the tail end, but you need to finish this quick. I want to
Okay,
talk to you about it once you're
okay,
done.
neat, okay, and definitely I mean I'm gonna be hopefully this next work week is much less horrible than last week, and then I'll have plenty of
Mhm.
time. But yeah, I'm very excited to see it. But yeah, I thematically I just think that's a better fit. And the reason I think that is because a lot of what we're seeing is the result of humanity's actions on All Rest.
Yeah.
And
Um,
I think a common theme, if you look at the way the current Titans are struggling, if you look at the way that the Titan that Morag comes from is completely
yeah.
polluted and destroyed. If
And
you
it's
look at
causing war with
yes,
Moradin and
yes.
Araya and Gormai and all that.
If
Yeah.
you look at the destruction on previous Titans that you've been through, that have been wrought, um, it
And
would
then
be
there's everything that
poetic.
Indol is doing as well.
Yes.
Indol has got its own like part to play in all this.
Oh man, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Ooh, Indol.
That, and then that, yeah, a mouth that fucking guy. But
Oh,
oh,
Malthus.
so one of these scenarios will yield a fantastic RPG that
Yeah.
I'm going to be like, okay, that's neat. One of these RPGs becomes one of my favorite games ever. So we'll see what happens. Again,
Okay.
I actually don't expect scenario 2. I don't, because that's the braver thing to do. But and most game developers don't typically take that. But
Okay.
maybe they surprise me. Which would
Okay.
be incredible. And then from there, I don't even know where the fuck it would go, because now there's no hope.
I would just say
What
this
does
one
Rex do?
thing.
What does Rex do if there's
I
no
would just
hope
say
now?
this one thing. Xenoblade 2 has my favorite ending of any story ever. Not even video games, not even movies, not even TV shows or anything. It has my favorite narrative story ever.
I
The
just want
ending. No,
I
sorry,
just
the ending. Sorry, the ending is my favorite. Not
okay.
just the story itself. The story I have some issues with. The ending is one of my favorite endings of any story ever, and just yeah, you experience it. That's all.
Also does Shulk get to, you can't answer that. I was gonna say. I was gonna ask does Shulk get to be is Shulk the architect? Out of complete left field, and
I don't know,
you can't
dude.
answer. You can't answer that.
I will say this. I will say this. I know where you are in the story.
Yeah, because I'm just wondering how we got from the Titans to All Rest, and I'm sure they'll answer that.
I will say this. You will that question that you just asked, how we got from the Titans to All Rest. It will be answered, but
Okay.
also there are some things that you have seen. I don't know if you remember it. It was just very small little teases that might have kind of given hints as to the answers of your questions.
Now I gotta go back.
So
Now I gotta go back
no,
for
I
sure.
think you should just continue the
Oh,
game
okay,
because it'll
okay,
all make sense. Yeah.
okay.
Oh,
Neat.
yeah.
So Xenoblade Chronicles 2, yeah, and so let's take a look at some of the comments. We've been getting some comments on this. And so taking a look, Miss Mandy says, woo, Spider-Man. So and actually real
Yeah.
quick, while we're on that, are you talking about specifically the first Spider-Man movie game where you fight Green Goblin? But
Yes,
also,
hold on. It's right here.
where you fight Craven the Hunter and Shocker, and they throw in other villains too that you fight.
Yeah, I don't know if Craven was in this game, but it was
I
yeah,
know
Green
Shocker
Goblin's
was.
behind the back.
Shocker was there.
Yeah, Shocker was here. It was
Um,
Shocker, Scorpion, Vulture, Green Goblin. I know they
okay,
were
yeah, I know they
in there,
threw
yeah.
in other villains to kind of fill it, pad it out, and fill it out.
Yeah, because
And
yeah,
I
it was
did
only Green
actually
Goblin
play
in the
that
movie.
game at my cousin's house, and that game was
Yeah.
fun. Swinging around New York, it wasn't even an open world game. That was Spider-Man
Yeah.
2, but that was still a
Yeah.
fucking blast.
It
And
took
then
me a very long time to learn how to play. It took me a very long time to follow the compass in this game. Like the whole like my goal for like a month was to learn how to follow the compass in this
oh,
game.
the chase sequences in that game
Yeah,
were
they're good.
ridiculously
The
hard.
Shocker boss battle is amazing as
Uh-huh.
well.
Yeah,
'Cause
no,
you're
I
in the
played that at my
subway and you have to
cousin's.
go up. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that was a good one. That was a good one.
Yeah.
So then we've got so Mad Kaiser says as far as the combat goes, he said Chugga helped me out with that. So that sounds about right too.
Okay,
So
here's my Monado.
oh, that's fucking awesome, man. Show that
Yeah,
off. Show that off to everybody. Yeah.
yeah. My friend got me this at an anime convention that he went to.
That's
Yeah.
cool as fuck.
I need to get an Aegis sword, and over there I have a Xenoblade 2 poster, but I can't really move my webcam well enough to
Right.
show that. But this is what you used during Operation Rainfall to change the future with Nintendo.
To change the future with Nintendo, yeah, with my pesky emails. Um,
Yeah.
Now, yeah, it was a Monado. It wasn't an email chat. It was a Monado that was slicing through them. I
You
think
know,
if
you
you
know what I love about Xenoblade One though, real quick, is Monado is kind of like personified as like your goals to change your destiny and future in that game. Because Alvis is always like, Shulk, you need to find your true Monado. And in the end, like, of course, his true Monado was Monado 3, but it was also
right,
like his will to change the destiny and go against everything that he knew to be like reality and true. And yeah,
right.
it's a very symbolic thing as well. So
I think when you get past chapter 4 and understand the gist of it, the combat does hit. Mad Kaiser says, and I
yeah,
would concur with that. You stick with it long enough, it starts to hit. But again, that is a failure of game design that they need to do better on. It
yeah.
sounds like they did in 3. It sounds like they maybe
Oh yeah, they
overcorrected in
very much
3.
did in 3, yeah.
But again, maybe the next project they kind of undercorrect again and get it just right. Just like Goldilocks, just like Baby Bear's porridge. It's just right.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
coming
Needs
of
to be
age
just right, yeah.
story. Mad Kaiser says Nintendo comes in, says Xeno 2 is the goat.
It is.
I'm enjoying it. I'm greatly enjoying it. And then Mad Kaiser, oh yeah, definitely continue. Well, okay. And then there's a lot of aspects of Xenoblade Chronicles 2 which I've contemplated upon. I wish more people gave it an honest chance. Yeah, and again, I was one of those gamers that didn't the first time. I got roughly to that battle with Morag and Bridget and tapped out. And it's because of that. It's because of that fucking combat system. But don't do
Yeah.
that. Like, anybody who's listening, don't do that. Give it a chance. And again, I know.
Watch NL and Sugar Conroy's videos.
Yes. Well, as someone else
Or if
mentioned,
you need
Chucky, yeah,
help, DM me. I can help you
yeah.
out.
It's well worth it. It's well worth it. And I know I'm the last person that should be fucking saying this to you guys since I shit all over Final Fantasy 13 constantly. Oh, it takes 20. Yeah, it gets good after 20 hours. It gets good after 20 hours. But I always shit on those people. But this
Yeah,
doesn't take
I have
20
I have a
hours. It
friend
doesn't.
who is actually playing Final Fantasy 13, the trilogy right
I'm
now.
sorry.
He's playing it on Twitch.
I'm so sorry.
Mad Kaiser will know it's Swice Senpai. He's playing through 13, and I was like, "Hey, how's
Condolences.
it going playing through 13?" And he's giving it an honest chance, but he was like, "There are
Condolences.
some things that are very annoying in this game."
It's a fucking beautifully rendered tube. It is a product of its time.
Yeah.
So let's wind the clocks back, to kind of go briefly into my hatred of Final Fantasy 13. So here I am, a wee lad, fresh off of Final Fantasy 6 on the Super
Mm.
Nintendo. That was the last Final Fantasy I had completed prior to 13. So
Oh, you didn't play 7, 8, 9.
imagine, not at that point. The last game I had actually completed was 6. In terms of what came right next. So I played 6 and then jumped right into 13.
Okay.
Imagine the
Wow.
absolute fucking shell shock of me being in this beautifully rendered tube. It's a fucking beautifully rendered tube, but it's a fucking tube. And they put you in that tube for 20 goddamn hours. They put you in that fucking tube and they tell you, hey, you either get to be a win crystal or a fail zombie. Which do you want to be? That's the story. And so you get to be win crystal or fail zombie, and you don't have any other choices. What a wonderful world that I'm a part of, and a lot of parallels to 16, which we'll get into. A
Oh,
lot of
yeah.
parallels to
I do
16.
wanna talk about 16 quite a bit.
Right.
Yeah, I have a lot to say
But
about 16.
in general, that game is where I offboarded on Final Fantasy and said,
Mhm.
"Fuck this." Until 16. Now 16 intrigued me because
Okay.
I wanted to play Final Fantasy 16, which was the first actual time that I wanted to try that. I wanted to try it on the PS5 specifically. And what intrigued me about it is it was a piece of software made specifically for a piece of hardware.
Yeah.
And I borrowed a brother-in-law's PlayStation 5 to try this out, and I did not care for it. Um, and
Yeah.
it's the world.
I kind of knew that you would feel that way about
It's
16.
it's it's the world. It's the dog shit people that I don't want to save. It's it's the way it deals with oppression in a way that is quite frankly literally stomach churning to me. The fact that
Have you
literally
watched Game of Thrones?
I have seen I've read A Song of Ice and Fire, haven't seen the show.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. If you, yeah, this story is very, very inspired by,
Not
I
surprised.
wouldn't say George R. R. Martin's books, but especially the shows. It is very inspired by the Dan and Dave Game of Thrones show.
Well,
And I,
and he's a
yeah,
fine writer, but here's the issue
yeah.
with it, with his story as well. So, hot take coming at you guys, nuclear hot take coming at you on Game of Thrones too. So, besides the fact that he's never going to finish the fucking book, that's a whole nother rabbit hole. But it's you have one guy who is an honorable, decent man in the whole fucking world, and everybody else is a piece of fucking shit. And then
Mhm.
this guy gets killed,
Yeah.
killed Ned Stark. And I'm sorry about the spoilers. If you don't know what's going on in this story, fucking 10 years later, I
I
don't
feel like
care.
most people know about that
Yeah,
one, but
if you
like,
if
I
you
mean,
don't
still,
know,
it's kind of a spoiler, but
yeah,
still, yeah.
if you don't know, I don't care at this point. But it's important you know that what happens in this fucking story is they kill the one guy that's a decent human being in the whole goddamn world, and then you're
I think
left.
that's a pretty bold take, though. I mean, I wouldn't say bold, but it is pretty bold that they kill the one like hopeful,
I know why
positive,
they
like
did it,
good guy. Yeah,
and I know why he
yeah,
did it. He did it to make a point. But
yeah,
it doesn't change the fact that I am now left with these douchebags that I
yeah.
don't give a shit about.
Hey, I will say Jon Snow is pretty awesome. I like Jon Snow. I think Jon Snow really lived up to his father, but at the same time, Jon Snow is like still growing. Jon Snow is still a boy. Like he went through a lot of like
Okay.
the ups and downs of like the coming of age story. And
Maybe he grows a moral compass at some point. That would be
yeah,
terrific.
Jon Snow is my favorite character in all of
Okay.
Game of Thrones. Like I really, really, really like Jon Snow, but it, I just feel very soured with Game of Thrones after like loving it for so much, and then the ending, the last 2 seasons were just not good at
I've
all.
heard things. I've heard
Yeah,
things.
it's really, really sad. And the thing, like, back to 16, I will say this. I was not sold on 16 at all. Like, I did not like the direction, I did not like the vibe, I
Okay.
did not like the tone, I did not like anything with 16. But I heard a lot of people whose like takes and opinions that I really respected. They kept saying it's a good game, it's a really good game. It has some issues, but I think you should try it. It's really good. And I I got it as a birthday present. Some of my friends got it from me because they wanted me to try it. And I've been playing it recently. It's good. It's really good.
It's
But
not
I
a
will say this.
bad game. Just full
It's not a bad
disclosure.
game.
Yeah, let me
It is
clarify my position real
very
quick. Yeah, not
yeah.
a bad game at
Yeah.
all. This is
And
a
I think
quality
people
game.
need to realize that it is not a bad game. I've seen so many takes online when you critique and criticize 16, people feel like it's more than just criticism. It's criticism towards like them or the Final Fantasy series or the developers, the Square Enix, and like I like the game. I think it's good.
Right.
There's a whole other spectrum of toxicity and negativity to 16, which I don't subscribe to.
Right.
Which like I
Yeah,
see a lot of
I
people
would never
who are
claim it's a
making
bad game.
assumptions about 16 which are not true. Like a lot of people are saying this is no way in shape an RPG. I think it is still an RPG. I plan to make like a full-on video about
Okay.
16 before the end of the year. I think it does have a lot of RPG mechanics. It's not as much of an RPG as Xenoblade is, or as like Tales of Arise or anything like that is, but it's still an RPG. So like I agree that it is an RPG. It is
Yeah,
more of an
that's a
action-centered character
crummy
RPG though.
criticism.
Yeah,
That's a crummy
but I will
criticism.
say there are things that this game needs to learn and do better because I with a lot of character action games and just action games that I played,
Mhm.
it is not my preferred game. But like I recently played Tales of Arise this year. I still prefer Tales of Arise. I still prefer Final Fantasy VII Remake, and am looking forward to Final Fantasy Rebirth more than I did for 16. But that does not mean that 16 is bad in any way. Because I will say this. 16, I recently played a boss fight in 16 a few days back. It is straight up one of the greatest boss fights I've ever had, like, experienced in my entire life. It is up
The
there
boss
in like my
fights,
top 3 favorite like boss fights in any video game.
boss fights are
So
good.
just for
Yeah,
that,
there are
yeah,
some really good boss fights. In
yeah,
Final Fantasy 16, I would agree with that. And again, yeah, full disclosure. I don't like the game because there's some people that really struggle with this. I don't
mm,
like the game does not equate to this game is bad. It just means
yes,
I
yeah.
don't like the game. But
Oh, oh, just imagine how shattered I would be if all of the I don't like Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom takes got to me. Like, there's a video that I
yeah,
made,
I
and
know
it
you get
still
so
gets
much shit for that, and
yeah,
it's
it still gets like, this video still gets views, and it still gets comments of people saying, "I hate Breath of the Wild. I hate Tears of the Kingdom. This is not my Zelda. This is not how Zelda should be. This is not Zelda in any way, shape, or form." And like, I don't agree with them, but like, that's their take. I can't do anything about it.
exactly.
Like,
Everybody has different takes. Everybody
yeah,
comes at things from. We've all read different books, right? So
yeah.
we all come at things from entirely different experiences.
But I
That's
will say also, when it comes to reception, when it comes to certain metrics, I know both of us are big fans of Mr. OJ Player Essence. I will
yeah.
say there are
OJ's elite dude. Yeah,
yeah,
he's
there are some things when you like see games and you see their success and you see their, I guess you can say, the results of the game's release, you do make like conclusions about them. And when those
correct.
conclusions are met, people are like, "Oh, no, no, no." And I'm like, it's it's kind of it's just there. It's just the numbers, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
I
well
don't know.
the numbers are useful in terms of gauging where your fans are. And that kind of leads me to my issue. So my personal issues with the game, and again, we all come at this from different angles. So when I'm doing a quest for, like, say, a farmer, for example. Now, please note this is, again, because people struggle with this. This is a deliberate exaggeration. This is not actually in the game. I'm trying to make a point, guys. But when I go up to, like, a farmer or a homesteader and he's like, "Oh, you piece of shit. I've got monsters that are fucking going all over my farm. Go fucking take care of them. Do something, you useless twat." And so then I walk away from this absolute mongoloid asshole and
Yeah.
just a piece of shit peasant that literally would fucking die without my magic. And I say, "Yeah, I better take care of that. I can't let him attack the village." Why not? Why can't I let the monsters wipe these absolutely feckless, ungrateful fucking people out?
Yeah. You could do that in Baldur's Gate probably
You absolutely can.
if
You
you
absolutely can do that in Baldur's Gate. You want to? A great story about Baldur's Gate. I was playing my sorceress character, and I was playing, and I pull this guy out that a lot of people like. A lot of people like, and again, I don't know what it is about Baldur's Gate 3. It's a very horny experience. A lot of people want to fuck these characters, man. A lot of
yeah.
people go on and on about how they want to fuck these characters.
And people complain about Xenoblade Chronicles 2 fan service.
Oh, get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here. Yeah, if you're yeah, all these people crying about, "Oh, it's too animu. There's too much fan service." Tell me you don't watch animu without telling me you don't watch animu. Guys, it could get so much fucking worse. There are
Yeah,
anime out
and
there
then
that
the
are
same
so
people
much
go play
worse than this.
Baldur's Gate and do very questionable things with Baldur's Gate, but
Well, you
that's
mentioned
another
OJ.
story for
OJ
another
actually
time.
had a great comeback. He's like, "Bro, you playing a game where you can fuck a bear." Like, get
Yeah,
the fuck out of here talking about Xenoblade 2.
exactly,
That I rolled.
exactly,
That fucking killed me to
exactly,
see that.
exactly.
So I don't want to hear that shit. But I don't like the people in this world. I don't like the way they treat the branded. I don't like
Mm,
I don't like their bullshit entitled attitude. I whatever's happening to this world, I want to help it happen. I want these people, gone. That is a
yeah,
happy ending to me, and I don't get to do that. So that's part of my problem. The other
Yeah,
part of my problem with
yeah,
Final
if you don't vibe with the story or characters, then it's
it's
just
hard.
not your
It's real
yeah,
hard.
it's not your cup of tea,
The
yeah.
other thing is that unless I honestly about fell asleep in places in that game. I honestly about
Dude,
if I'm not
oh
putting in
my
the boss
god.
battles like the general, I almost fell asleep, and
I will
that's
say this,
that hurt
there
me
was,
inside.
like after, like, I told you, I experienced one of the greatest boss fights my entire life, right? After that, I did the most boring section in the entire game, and I was playing the game with my friends on Discord, and I was not paying attention to the game because I was so disconnected from what was happening, and I was just having a conversation with my friends, and I'm like, "Hey, when like we are just talking about random like general like nonsense things, right?"
Right.
And then randomly, I'm just like, "Hey, when do I get back into like the good stuff?" And they're like, "Oh, just a little longer, just a little longer." And I'm like, "It's been 2 hours." Like this game's pacing is not very good. Like
No,
I
no,
will also
there's
say, like,
entire things that happen, like hours that go by with nothing fucking happening that I care about.
yeah, like, even Xenoblade 2 doesn't have the best pacing, I will say, like, I think you would agree with me on this, like, Chapter
Fair.
2 is a little slow, Chapter
Yeah.
4 is a very low point of the game, I hated Chapter 4. You remember Chapter 4 with Tora and Mui Mui and Lila and all that?
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was I was so mad, I was like,
Happen to
I
find the
hate this part, I hate it.
here's how bad it is. I can't even actually remember it. Something about you had to go find the kids or something, or that
Yes,
were
it was you
lost,
had to
or
find the kids, and then you go to Moradane, and
okay,
then
yeah,
yeah, and Moradane is the whole plot with Lila and Mui Mui and,
yeah,
Tora's father, and it was stupid. I was like, "This is such a, like" I mean, here's the thing, that part kinda needed to happen because it sets up a little bit of stuff near the end of the game,
okay,
but it was a pacing issue for me, and imagine a game where there is multiple of those pacing issues, and that's Final Fantasy 16, and, like,
right, right,
again, like, it's not bad, like, this plot itself, the story itself, I am enjoying the story, I'm enjoying the plot, I
right.
love Clive as a character, I love him as a protagonist, I'm
Yeah, he's
invested in
okay.
what's
Yeah, he's
happening
okay.
and all that. I like all that, but so I'm kind of pushing through a lot of this, but I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
it's a
yeah. No
really
problem with Clive.
it's a pretty sizable negative for me in this game,
Yeah, it's the
and
people he's
yeah,
rescuing. I don't want to rescue them. I want to nuke them. Like
yeah.
that's the problem with it.
I think Clive has a very good arc where at first he is very, like, just downtrodden and very regretful, filled with regret. And the first kind of like arc of the game is just dealing with regret and
Okay.
accepting your like the accepting a lot of bad things that happened to you in the past, growing from that. And then after that, Clive goes on just kind of like a revenge quest, and he's just like this cool dude who's like, yeah, just like saving a lot of people, saving a lot of he kills a lot of the bad guys as well, I'll say. But like it's done in a very, very interesting way.
Yeah, but the bad guys are the people. They're the actual people of the world. The heartless,
Yeah,
psychopathic
yeah.
population. Like, and we'll get into that. Did you see Brandon? Did you see Just the Gems video on Final Fantasy 16 yet?
No, I
Or
haven't seen it yet
okay,
because
okay,
I want to wait till I finish the game
sure,
till yeah, yeah.
sure,
But
and
I saw, like, him tweet about it, I saw it on my recommended, so I'll check
okay,
it out.
definitely,
I
yeah.
will say this about 16, I've seen so many reviews of it, I've seen so many people talk about that game because I was like, "I'm not sure if I'm gonna enjoy this or
Oh,
not," and I'm enjoying it, but, like, I've watched so many reviews, like, I've seen Cozy Feji's review, I've seen FemTrooper's review, I've seen Lady Pelvic's review, I've seen so many people review this game
so, and thank you
just to,
for
like,
that, by
get an
the way.
idea.
I appreciate that because also full disclosure, I did not just give a review either, guys. I
Mhm.
will not give a review of a game unless I finish the game. So this is not a review. This is like my first ignorant ass thoughts on the game for playing about 20 hours in, which I think is enough to give a first impressions, but it's not a review. For all I know, the game could literally it could get good 20 hours in. You know that is possible.
Yeah,
But please do
oh
not see my comments as a review. I have not finished this game. I did not
yeah.
buy this game either. So
It's just your opinions on
exactly.
it.
Full disclosure. Did not buy the
Yeah.
game at $70. That's important. I think that's very important. I have no skin in the game monetarily. Did not buy a console to get the game. Did not finish the game. So take
Yeah.
my thoughts with an enormous grain of salt on this one.
I'll say something. Mad Kaiser here said in the chat that a lot of the modern Final Fantasy games has weird pacing issues, and I kind of agree with, yeah. Seven Remake had its side quest stuff. Yeah,
Okay.
I don't remember exactly what was chapter 14 in Seven Remake, but Seven Remake had some weird pacing issues with the side quests. I will say I kind of enjoyed the side quests in Seven Remake because it was really like funny that Cloud was doing a lot of the stuff that he was doing, because it just kind of fit in that world with Cloud being like the stoic
Yeah.
kind of guy he is, and him like saving cats from trees and like helping little kids find their way home, and like I
Yeah.
kind of enjoyed that. It was really silly, but I I understood I understood where they were going with it. But
Um,
otherwise, it was just kind of run of the mill JRPG side quests.
can we give it up for Final Fantasy VII and how they handled the Golden Saucer? By the way,
Oh yeah,
I just want to say that because when they first said they were remaking Final Fantasy VII, my first thoughts on that were
how is the gold saucer gonna look like?
it's current year. How the fuck are they going to do the Golden Saucer and not piss
Yeah,
somebody off? And they did it.
yeah,
They did it. That was terrific. And I don't think
yeah.
anybody was really that unhappy about it.
Yeah, I mean,
Or not the gold, not
I
golden
mean,
saucer.
we didn't
Sorry, no,
see
no,
it in.
not golden saucer. No, sorry, I'm getting
Yeah,
my
gold
fun.
saucers in Rebirth. We'll
Yeah,
see it in
what
Rebirth.
is the area with Don Corneo? What's that called? Wall Market.
Yeah, Wall Market.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so yeah, how are they going to do Wall Market in 2023 and not piss
yeah,
everybody off? And they did it.
yeah.
Like they actually
The
got that
Honeybee
done.
Inn. That was fun. The Honeybee Inn.
Yeah,
That was amazing.
they did an amazing
'Cause
job with that. And
yeah,
and I just want to give it up to them because I can't imagine having to adapt Wall Market
mm,
for modern audiences.
yeah,
But they managed to do it. They did it tastefully, and they did it
yeah,
in a way that really paid homage to the original. And
yeah.
so that's the kind of creativity that I like. The kind of creativity I don't like, and it looks like Brandon's here. I'm glad you're here, Brandon, because actually we're
Oh,
getting
is he
ready.
here?
Yeah,
Hello.
Brandon's
How's it
here
going?
too. And Mad Belmont's here, so we got a full house in here tonight. Holy shit!
Yeah,
But I'm glad Brandon's here because we're going to touch on it's a comment that I left on Brandon's video. No spoilers,
yeah,
but it kind of goes. Definitely watch just the Jim's video on this when you get done with the game niche.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
I most definitely will.
Definitely do it. And again, it's not really a spoiler because it's pretty obvious. They even did it in Seven a little bit, where the voices of the Fates are kind of like the fans saying things have to
Yeah,
stay the way it
yeah.
is. It's
I've
pretty on
seen a
the
little bit
fucking
of that in
yeah.
16 so far.
It's
Yeah.
pretty on the nose, yeah. And so that's what I don't like, and that's a very ideological thing with
I
me.
think this game did that a lot better.
Yes, yeah, it's certainly less whiny about it. And again,
Yeah,
I never even
it's
got
very
into
subtle how Xenoblade does the whole Destiny future kind of thing.
and I never even got into the meat of what Brandon was talking about, but I'm not going to finish the game probably. So I watched the video. And so what I said on Brandon's video is I said, Brandon has highlighted something I've been pointing out for a long time about the games industry in general. Smash Brothers was not
Yeah.
new. It was treading the same old ground for a 2D fighter, but just made more accessible. Super
Yeah.
Mario Brothers was not new, as it was treading the same ground began by the smash hit of Pitfall in games like Pac-Land and Jump Bug. Legend of Zelda tread the same ground by the Western arcade smash hit of Gauntlet and open world games such as Ultima 3. When World of Warcraft was made, it was treading the same ground as EverQuest, and Blizzard didn't call it Warcraft 4. They specifically marketed it as something different to avoid the backlash. Chess is
Mhm.
treaded and old, but chess is not broken. You don't fix chess because you have a new idea, you make that new idea into its own goddamn thing. In
Mhm.
the same way, Final Fantasy was not broken until they started trying to fix it. All market data shows that
Yeah.
treading new ground when there are established customer expectations ends up destroying established franchises. The
Yeah.
entire GameCube era is proof of this. Ultima 9 is proof of this. There are innumerable examples, I said. I said in no.
And Breath of the Wild, many would say, is proof of that by like fixing
Mhm.
and ruining, but Us two would say it's fixing by going back to its
They went
roots,
back to
you know?
exactly
Yeah, it
right.
went back to its roots, yeah.
I continued, I said, in no other industry do employees get to do, quote unquote, whatever they want to do. The bus driver does not get to be creative and choose a new route. No, the bus driver must drive the same route day after day. The
Yeah.
steakhouse chef does not get to nuke the menu and replace it with peanut butter and jelly sirloin, marshmallow chocolate salmon, and other such nonsense shit. He has to stay within the confines of customer expectations and limit experimentation to the specials. The games industry has been protected from this reality because of the red hot rise of computers and internet, as well as the growing economies. But now computer growth is no longer red hot and economies are shrinking. Lo and behold, reality is beginning to sink in on the games industry. They can't do whatever they want. Now, that's not to say that there's no room for creativity. This is often where new hits come from. Body Harvest, for example, was a chance that led to Grand Theft Auto. Market loves brand new games, brand new ideas. What people are objecting to is the complete reinvention of a beloved game series based on the selfishness of a game developer. You will notice now, for example, that GTA now sticks to customer expectations. Now these guys are literally making video games about how their customers don't treat them as gods and they're crying that we won't buy whatever they put out. We're the problem. We're the villain. In their eyes, we are what's holding back gaming. The more I listen to modern game developers, the more I see selfish people who just want to do whatever they want to do and for us to have to pay for it.
Interesting.
And that was kind of my commentary on the meta commentary that Yoshi P is putting in his game. So, Yoshi, so you say, some people say I don't want to attack the developers. Now, fuck that. I'll attack the developers all day long. Hey, Yoshi P,
I
I
yeah,
hey,
I wouldn't say I would attack the developers, but
I would.
I would really show how I feel when it comes to my preferences. Because in the end, yes, we are the consumers, we are the ones playing. If there's something I don't like about a game, there's something I don't like about the direction
Hey,
where a
Yoshi
franchise is
P.
going,
Hey,
will
Yoshi P.
be
I am your fucking god, buddy. I am your fucking
I
god.
will voice my opinion on it very much so.
Only the customer has a right to be
You
selfish.
know, that's why I'll give you a good example. I told you at the beginning of this show that like the series that really got me hooked onto playing games was Pokemon. And
Proud.
it is I am very, 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 very sad
Me too.
with Pokemon.
Me too,
Because
brother.
here's the thing, back when I was young, when I was in middle school, I would just envision myself now playing a new next generation Pokemon game, how good it would look, how big it would be, how advanced it would be. Because I was like, Game Freak makes these games very well. I'm so excited to see what they do in like 10, 15 years. What have they done in 10, 15 years? They 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 just haven't they're not up to standards. And like
No, no.
I realized that, and I made this claim and I made this kind of like accord with myself, and I was gonna make a video on it. I don't know if I will. I recorded audio for it. I don't know if I'll even release it or not. But
Right.
basically, I'm not gonna buy anything from Game Freak ever again.
Okay.
Like they've lost me. Like I used to be a massive Pokemon fan. I used to be a diehard Pokemon fan. I used to buy everything. I used to buy all their plush. I have Pokemon stuff on my shelf right now. I have like one, two, three, four. I'm counting at least four Pokemon figures on that like shelf over there. Like I used to love this series, but they have lost me as as a customer, as a fan, as like someone who respects them as a development studio, as a company. Like I just won't have it anymore. Like I played Sword and Shield.
Right.
I bought that game. That was the first game where I said to myself, I regret spending $60 on this game. I regret buying this game. I feel like I have been
Cheated.
robbed of my time and money and my experience with this game. And I saw Scarlet and Violet. I was like, I hope it's good. I hope they
I
learn.
was
I
so
hope it's
excited.
good. And I was excited until I saw the product of the game. I saw how bare bones, how basic, how no, not basic. It's just undercooked and underdeveloped. And I saw people accept it, and I saw people make excuses. And I said, that's not good. That's not good. I understand that you're enjoying the game. That's fine if you're enjoying the game. Do not accept this as a good product. Do not just like it's not good. It's
Round
not
of
like
applause. Round of
and it,
applause in
it
the chat for Nish.
no
Round of applause in
and
the chat.
it's not only that, it's just how I realize that like you said it yourself with that comment. It's almost as if we're being brainwashed. Like I don't I realized what Game Freak was doing. I realized that they're like, we can get away with just making this game like this and sell it and make money.
So
And they realized that like I don't mean to sound like mean or anything, but they realized that a lot of the fans just had that kind of mentality. It's Pokemon, I will get it, I will buy it. And that's what just
are
soured me with this entire series.
are
I was
you
like, I can't do it anymore. I just can't.
are you familiar with the are you familiar with the weapons of influence as outlined by Robert Cialdini?
No.
Okay.
I
So
no, I'm sorry.
let me delve a little bit into the psychology of what you just described because I think it's important that customers understand this. When I say only the customer has a right to be selfish because we're the ones with the goddamn money, I really need this ethos to try to. If there's one thing I do with my work in video games, it's trying to get this ethos to take off. You are not a
Yeah,
fucking captured audience. You do not
yeah.
need new video games. There are enough video games for us to last us the rest of our fucking lives that are already out that are quality.
Oh, okay. You
100%.
basically answered one of my questions that I wanted to ask you, but we'll get into that later. But
Yeah,
continue. I'm
but
sorry.
but
Continue.
yeah. So what's happening here is in terms of what's going on is there's six weapons of influence that are major weapons of influence. And part of my background, just so you understand a little bit of my background, I have a little bit I have a untrained cognitive science background, self-taught, and I am a trained
Yeah.
hypnotist. Okay. So the things that are being brought to get bear against the gaming public are there's six weapons of influence: reciprocity, authority, scarcity, social proof, consistency, liking. Okay. Here's what's happening, and here's what's being drilled into the to the gamers' heads. Social proof. So Pokemon sells 26, 30 million copies. Okay. So in terms of that, Pokemon's gonna be doing fine. They can point to that and say, well, people are fine with Pokemon. Look at the fucking sales. Authority.
Yeah.
It's coming from the game devs saying all this shit. That this is the direction Pokemon takes or Final Fantasy takes. That's authority. Authority is a principle of persuasion. Liking. Okay. Liking is that, hey, I've traditionally liked this series. I should like this series further. And that goes into the fourth effect, and it's very powerful, and that is consistency. We have an
Yeah.
internal desire to be consistent with our past actions. I've always
Yeah.
bought Zelda. I should continue to buy
Yeah.
Zelda, or
You
I'm
know,
being
I would say
inconsistent.
like in terms of that consistency,
Mhm.
I was not sold on Breath of the Wild until I played the game. I was very skeptical, I was very
I was
apprehensive, I
too,
was not
actually.
very excited.
I was
Yeah,
too.
and like I bought it based off of consistency. I was like, I am a Zelda fan. Zelda is my number one. Like I have to
Right.
get this game. I have to try it. But then I bought it and I played it and I realized it's actually a worthwhile quality game.
Well,
With Pokemon, I kind of
you're fed up.
like
You're fed up.
yeah,
So,
I know what's happening
so
with
now
it.
here's one thing I will tell you about Pokemon. So actually, I have a Scarlet and Violet review I'm trying to write. Actually, I skipped
Right.
Sword and Shield, but I do have Scarlet Violet. Okay, in terms of the review process. That game is a fucking technical train wreck. There is no defending that game.
Yeah, I played it. I played two
Technically
separate copies
speaking,
on two separate Switches from two separate friends, and
it's a butter and ham
yeah,
disaster.
yeah, it's like the thing is I played around with the game. I did a lot of things. I flew around with the Miraidon mount and everything. I did a lot of stuff, and I was like, "This is nice. This is fun. Like, I know what they're going for. I know like I can see what they're going for with this, and I like it. But it's not a modern like it's not up to
No,
modern standards.
and
It's
here's what
not.
I will tell you. It's surprisingly it's still fun,
Yeah,
but I'm 100% with you in terms of we've got to get together as consumers and we've got to kind of come to a consensus on what the fuck we can accept with this series. Um, we really do need to. Yeah, the game is still fun. I had a blast with Pokemon Scarlet Violet, but that
Mhm.
we are sending a message when we buy that game full price that
Yeah.
that shit is
We're
acceptable,
sending a
and
message.
it's not. And we're also contributing to the persuasion of our fellow gamers. Every sale that a series makes, they can point to for social proof. So they're going
Yeah.
to use that to their investors. They're going to use that, and that's what's happening with Square Enix right now. Square Enix is
Yeah.
having to explain that piddling performance to their investors right now, and that
Yeah.
is going to lead to change. Turns out Yoshi P, and it breaks my heart honestly, because Yoshi P produced one of the greatest stories I've ever heard in terms of Endwalker with Final Fantasy 14.
Yeah.
Now this is coming from somebody who never even played Final Fantasy 14, but I was told by a
Yeah.
friend that hey, you've got to check out Endwalker's story. It will speak to your heart, man.
Yeah.
And so I did, and
I
oh
yeah.
my god, Endwalker has
Yeah.
such a good story.
I
This
will
came
say
from the
I
same
don't think
guy.
16 like what CBU 3 did with 16, I think it's good. I don't think even like I don't think it's like a financial and sales like I don't think it failed in any of its sales like projections or anything. But I'll say I went back and watched OJ's videos on Final Fantasy 16 sales today,
Mhm.
and I
Oh,
remembered
did
again what
OJ
he
put
said.
did OJ put out a new video on it?
No, no, no. I went back to his videos from June and July,
Oh,
and
okay,
it,
okay.
it is very telling. It is very telling that 16 the 16's initial first like initial launches were not as high as other Final Fantasy games.
Oh, no,
On
so
top
that
of
so
that,
so they can't even claim fastest selling. Holy shit, that's
yeah,
bad.
and another thing is it is also kind of crazy that Nintendo Switch games like Pikmin 4 are outpacing Final Fantasy
Oh
16
my god,
in
can we
Japan.
talk about
And
Pikmin's performance?
this is all Japanese sales, by the way,
Right,
and
sure.
it paints more of a like stronger picture with Japanese sales because Final Fantasy is like it is the it is the big thing in Japan. So,
Um, yeah, and just a quick aside on Pikmin, just, I'm tired of being fucking wrong with me and OJ. I gotta tell you, but I
mm,
gotta admit when I'm wrong. So Pikmin is a series that I've always kind of shat on sales wise. I
yeah,
don't think they're bad games, but I've always
yeah.
shat like my question has always been why the fuck are you making another Pikmin? This game doesn't fucking sell.
It's because Miyamoto wants to have his fun.
I know why. I know why. It's a rhetorical question. I know why we do it because Miyamoto says we do it. But the purpose of first party software is to move first party hardware, and Pikmin doesn't fucking do it. Now that
Yeah,
said, there can be exceptions made because not every franchise does sell hardware. If the
yeah.
if the
Xenoblade
software
doesn't.
if the software sells are
Xenoblade
fine,
doesn't. Fire Emblem doesn't.
right?
Pikmin
But
doesn't.
the
Yeah,
software sales are fine. But Pikmin, that's
yeah,
never
yeah,
been the case. Software sales are not fine for Pikmin. All of a
yeah,
sudden, Pikmin fucking skyrockets. And
yeah,
I have to admit, I was wrong because I said, I don't care what fucking system that's on. You could put a Pikmin on a 200 million seller, and Pikmin's not going to do shit because nobody wants to fucking play
yeah.
Pikmin. And I was wrong. I was absolutely wrong because Pikmin 4 seems like it is blowing it out of the water. So hats
Yeah,
off
I
on
was
that
very
one.
surprised to see Pikmin 4 sales, and I'm very happy it's doing so
Me
well.
too. Me too.
But yeah,
Contrary to me being this old stick in the mud codger I do want to see games succeed. I do. I'm just very skeptical of it, and I got to tell you, that's one of the finest things I've ever seen this generation. Is the Nintendo Switch just consistently proves my cynicism wrong and my nihilism wrong, and so I love that about it. I actually one of the things I love about the system. But yeah, in general, yeah, Pikmin sales doing well. Final Fantasy being outperformed by Pikmin. You got to keep that in mind historically. This is a franchise that once outperformed The Legend of Zelda.
yeah,
Because
and like
Ocarina of Time was outsold by Final Fantasy VII. So how
again,
far
like
have we
none of
fallen?
this is to say that 16 is a bad game.
Right,
None of
right.
this is to say that 16 is a bad game. None of this is to say 16 was a failure. It is just very telling when you see the numbers and
Yeah, one of my
you
favorite
kind of have to
games.
come to some sort of a conclusion with the
One
results.
one of my
You
favorite
know?
games of all time is Earthbound. Earthbound didn't sell
Yeah,
with shit.
yeah,
And contrary hot
dude,
take, I don't think
yeah,
Earthbound would sell shit if they made a new Earthbound today. I
yeah.
get why they don't make
Xenoblade
Earthbound.
Chronicles X didn't even cross 1 million,
Right.
and that's my thing. Like, I don't understand why people like. Here's my hot take, and I think you've probably seen my video on this, or
Okay.
if you have not, you should check it out. But basically, you know how everyone's clamoring for Twilight Princess and Wind Waker? I
Uh-huh.
don't care about Twilight Princess and Wind Waker,
Me
and the
neither.
reason is because yeah, like I don't like I understand that a lot of people haven't played the game, but they had three chances to play the game. Three chances. 3 chances on 3 different systems.
So
GameCube, Wii, and Wii U. No one like, people played the games,
yeah,
like, they played the games,
if
but turns out not enough people played the games, so we need a remaster on
no,
a 4th system
no, it's not gonna change anything.
when
It's not gonna
yeah,
change anything.
it's not gonna change anything because, yeah, like, the open world Zelda sells more.
Yes.
Linear Zelda doesn't sell as much. Another thing
Yes.
is, like, are you seriously wanting a game that has been on 3 systems to be on another system when Xenoblade Chronicles X is stuck on the Wii U? It's stuck. It's like, the Wii U is a dead system. The Wii U is like, it's dead.
Mhm.
It was a failure of a system. Only sold 13 million copies. The Wii U only sold 13 million. I have one of the
Gee,
13 million
I
Wii
wonder
U
why. I
right
wonder why.
there. Yeah, and Xenoblade Chronicles X did not cross 1 million copies. It did not cross 1 million copies. Every
Give it a
single one of those
chance.
Zelda games, every single one of those Zelda games on all 3 of those systems
Right.
exceeded like 4 million or 2 million, or it Zelda sells. Like, Xenoblade X is a forgotten relic basically. And people consistently say Twilight Princess, Wind Waker, Twilight Princess, Wind Waker. Like, it just makes me, like, as a Zelda fan, yeah, I would like Twilight Princess and Wind Waker, but like, when it comes to games that need the spotlight, that need the limelight, I think people need to really understand where, like, the priority should be.
Well, you gotta
Maybe
understand.
where it may not be, but where it should be, you know?
But you got to understand
I
there's
don't know.
more at play than just sales. It's those are games that are near and dear to Anuma-san's heart. Okay, so
Oh, yeah,
Wind
yeah.
Waker in particular, not so much Twilight Princess, because actually partway through development, Miyamoto kind of inserted himself because,
Yeah, that was a
um,
very Miyamoto-led game with how
yep,
Ocarina it is
yep.
yeah, it's inspired a
But
lot by
in
Ocarina, yeah.
in particular, Wind Waker is near and dear to Anuma's heart. It's kind of the same way they keep trying to sell 3D Mario to 2D Mario fans, and the problem is that
Yeah.
we just don't understand how brilliant 3D Mario is. No, sorry, actually, we just don't fucking like 3D Mario. Sorry, we
Are
just
you
don't
not
like
an
it.
Odyssey fan?
I am an Odyssey fan, so
Yeah,
therein lies my hypocrisy
yeah.
because Odyssey is the
I
game
I
that
I
made
hope
me.
you're a Sunshine hater, though.
I can't say I hate it because I've never played it, but it doesn't interest me.
Okay. Yeah, Sunshine is weird, like,
Doesn't interest me.
well, the last time I played it was when my, like, little nephew came to visit us, and I was playing Sunshine with him, and he was having fun just, like, playing around in the water and stuff, and I was like, "I can never play this game."
No,
I can't.
Odyssey to me is the first game that actually cracked the controls.
Yeah.
Odyssey feels fun
Odyssey
to
was
control.
insane, yeah.
It feels
Yeah,
fun.
Odyssey, like, here's the thing, I'm not that big of a Mario fan,
Right.
and, like, I like Mario, but I've never been that big of, like, a Mario fan.
Sure.
Odyssey, like, made me remember why I love Mario.
Well, and
Like,
also
yeah,
it did what I've been asking him to do. So there's a big importance whether it's on Zelda or whether it's on Mario. Again, we're not playing a game because there's a fucking plumber from Brooklyn who's jumping on Goombas. That's not why we're playing that game. We're playing that
yeah,
game to expand the Mushroom Kingdom. There was one of my favorite
yeah,
companies of all time called Origin Systems, made the Ultimate games. You know what their tagline was? We create
mhm,
worlds. And what is a video game except a giant world that you've created, a fantasy world for us to explore? Whether it's the
yeah,
literary nonsense landscapes of the Mushroom Kingdom, or whether it's the dark fantasy of the Legend of Zelda's legendary storytelling, or whether it's the bleak, oppressive sci-fi atmosphere of the Metroid games. You're not
yeah,
just making a character. Those characters are all incidental. They're just vehicles for the player. Give us
Yeah,
a world. Give us the stage. In a movie or a book, you are watching the story play out. But in a video game, you are the
it's an
actors on the
interactive
goddamn
experience.
yes. So give us a world to interact with. It's part of what I think a lot of our favorite games are. You look at Monolith Soft in the worlds they make fucking worlds, man. You look at
Yeah,
Mario Wonder, the Flower Kingdom, the first goddamn new place we've gone in a Mario game and since Bop fucking New Super.
Bob. Yeah,
You look at Hyrule and how just wonderful that world is in open world. I mean, these are all places we want to go. You look at a place like Zebes or even Metroid Dread, which takes us to this
Yeah,
new planet.
ZDR. That's what it was called in Dread, right? ZDR.
ZDR, yeah. Just
Yeah, that
take
was really
us,
well done.
take us places. Take us on a traveling trip, man.
Yeah,
And
Metroid
that's
Dread is so good.
Metroid
Metroid
Dread
Dread
is
was like,
Metroid Dread is fucking incredible. Metroid Dread
you
is
know what I told someone yesterday, like the other day, is I was talking to them about Super Metroid and why, like, overall I prefer Super Metroid to Dread,
okay.
and I told them like Dread and Super Metroid are like both like some of the best games ever,
Oh sure,
but
100%.
yeah, I prefer Super Metroid because of the music. I think the music is better in Super, so I have that a little above Dread. But here's the thing. I think this is gonna sound weird, but I think you'll understand what I'm saying when I say this.
Okay.
Super Metroid is the most video game I've ever played.
Okay.
It is such a like pure video game.
Dread is
Like if I have to like describe, if I have to like give someone a video game to like understand video games, it would probably be Super Metroid.
oh Super Metroid, yeah. Super
Yeah,
Metroid is so Super Metroid is brilliant, absolutely brilliant in terms. It nails the atmosphere. Um, the main thing that I will mention in Super Metroid, it's the only reason I put Dread above it is because Super Metroid is an easy game. And keep in
yeah,
mind that what the my you got to keep in mind. Let me kind of define my terms for what I mean by that to the chat and to you. So if you look at the Metroid experience, Metroid has never been a game that sells gangbusters. Although the first Metroid sold incredibly well. But in general, that's not been the purpose of Metroid as Nintendo's marquee software. The reason why
yeah,
Metroid gets mentioned as part of that marquee software is because it does a job that is very unique to Metroid that no other Nintendo game does. And it is that Defender 2 arcade cabinet in the smoke filled corner of the arcade. It's that
yeah.
really hardcore gamer marquee experience that's going to
Yeah, it's
challenge
the
the
most
shit out.
video game.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's going to challenge the
Yeah.
shit out of you. Metroid had fake bosses. Metroid had dead ends where you would literally dead end and couldn't get out of. Metroid was fucking hard. Torian was terrifying with the Metroid corridor and Mother
Yeah.
Brain. Um, that's what Metroid does. And so Super Metroid, although it upped the controls and it upped the usability, I think it I think it lost track of what Metroid's purpose for Nintendo was, and that is to be that game that challenges hardcore gamers. And when somebody says Nintendo is kiddie, you can point them in the direction of that fucking game. Yeah,
Yeah.
go. Good luck. Good luck,
Yeah.
hardcore gamer guy. Go try that game on for size. I played
Yeah,
Super
I
Metroid
just
recently.
hope people I hope people still are open-minded enough to give Super Metroid still a shot because it is old, it is on the SNES, it does look older,
It
it
plays
does
better
play a
than
little differently, but like if people really give that game a shot, it is one of the best. It's
mhm,
like those games are very rare. Like Super Metroid, Ocarina of Time, Chrono Trigger, where you can play them now in 2023 and still
still have fun.
like no, not only still have fun, but see that they've aged so well.
Yeah,
You don't have like hindering experiences. I feel like a lot of those hindering experiences with like retro games come with like the N64 and PS1 era, especially PS1. Like there's a lot of things with PS1 games which
that
are
was a
very like yeah,
that was a clunky
it's
era. It's actually where
yeah.
I largely off-roaded in gaming for a while.
Yeah, like a lot of games like Chrono Trigger, Final Fantasy VI, Super Metroid, Link to the Past, Ocarina of Time, like those games have aged so well you can still play them today,
Yeah, and
and
you
it's
gotta
just
keep it in mind.
really good how yeah,
You mentioned a game like Super Metroid or Chrono Trigger, and then you mentioned a game like Ocarina. What's so marvelous about Ocarina, and what I can respect about it, despite it not being my favorite, I respect it immensely, is because keep in mind that Chrono Trigger and Super Metroid, those games came at the end of the pixel art 2D era of gaming.
yeah,
When the decision was made to jump from 2D to 3D on fucking everything, damn near, they started from
mm,
scratch, and we went right back to the clunky. You can directly point to 32-bit and 64-bit games and say these are as clunky in some cases as early 8-bit games. Very very clunky
yeah,
experience because they started from
yeah,
scratch again. This was a new
yeah,
frontier, and games like Mario 64 and Legend of Zelda,
yeah,
despite the fact that they're literally from the dawn of a new age of gaming, they still feel okay enough. And in the
yeah,
case of Zelda, it feels fantastic.
yeah. Zelda, yeah, Mario 64 is also very well done. Like
It is. It absolutely
I
is.
played quite a bit of Mario 64, but like
It's not my
I
Mario,
don't
but
yeah,
it's good.
I'm not as attached to Mario 64 as other people are, but I think it is also very monumental for a lot of people having seen like Mario pop out of the pipe and just have Lakitu spin the camera around. Like I understand how big of a deal that was
Right.
as well.
All
Yeah.
righty. So we're at about an hour and 30 and work awaits. So we're gonna try to start winding down a little bit, which is
Yeah.
unfortunate. We are gonna have to do a round two, my friend, because there's so much we want to talk about.
Yeah, yeah, we have to
But
do a round 2,
but be
especially after you complete Xenoblade 2. Oh my god, I
Oh, we
need to like I
definitely will do
really,
a round
really need
two.
to.
So I want
Yeah.
to go over. I want to give you an opportunity because to make sure. Do you have anything you want to ask me specifically, and we can kind of wind down on some of your topics that you want to ask me about?
I we can save some for the next one, but I do want to hear a bit of your takes on why you don't think Switch 2 is coming in 2024. Because I see you all the time on Twitter saying, no, 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 Nintendo is going to make the same mistakes as they used to. I I
My cynical
I'm
ass.
actually
Yeah,
really like I'm actually genuinely curious what you mean by that because like
sure.
I understand that like Switch's like early 2024 lineup isn't the strongest, but it's not like there's no drought. There's no drought like there was for Wii and Wii U. I think they're kind of gearing up for stuff coming very soon. I think when the new console comes sometime next year, it's gonna come with some really big heavy hitters. So yeah. What do you
Okay,
think?
so a couple things on that. Yeah, for sure. So first and foremost, I just want to mention. So Samuel talks about games. Just said Switch 2 is definitely coming in 2024. Lamau. And you just said Switch is coming in 2024. So you guys can add 6 days to when the Switch 2 is coming out. You can add 6 more days before that comes out. So every time,
How many days have been added with me, Sammy, and OJ's
yeah. Oh,
Switch
yeah.
2 take?
OJ's on that fucking bandwagon too now. Shame on
Yeah.
you, sir.
So
But
so how many days are you keeping a
also,
tally of how
well,
many days have
here's
been
the
added?
problem. Do you count RGT 85 videos or do you not count RGT 85 videos?
That's up to you. You're the one keeping the
Okay,
tally
so
on
if
this.
we
So.
count RGT 85 videos, the Switch 2 will come out sometime in 2032. Um,
Nice.
if we're counting everybody else's Switch 2, I put it sometime around 2025.
Okay.
And so there's two answers to that question, and I'm actually given it's so one thing you will notice about me is I will change my opinion if the information presented to me yields me to a different result. I think, given the things that we begin to hear, it's turned into just random speculation. Now we're actually starting to hear some legitimate, concrete rumors that are starting to be replicated across the industry.
Yeah.
And so it looks like
Eurogamer.
Eurogamer, which OJ reminds me, yeah, I know
Yeah.
Eurogamer's never wrong, right? They don't miss. So the first thing I will say is that I am much more amenable to the fact now that the Switch is coming out in 2024. I may have been wrong on that. So now we got to have the discussion of is that the smart move to bring a system out in 2024? Yeah, I mean there's credible leaks coming from Eurogamer. Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. But now we got to talk about is that the smart move? If you look at the macroeconomic conditions, they are really fucking turbulent right now. And there it
Yeah.
is. Everybody take a shot. I said macroeconomics.
Yes,
It
yes, I
finally
was
happened.
waiting for it.
It took
I was waiting for it.
you have steered away from that, which is smart actually. I was wondering, it's like because some people come on here and they challenge me on the Zelda cells or the Metroid cells, and I'm like, oh boy, and
No, I don't see a way to challenge. I was challenging everyone else with Pokemon and Final Fantasy tonight, but
right.
I wasn't challenging you.
So if you look at the macroeconomic waters, so reasons against a switch to in 2024. Macroeconomic waters are very turbulent. Okay, so what that means is, typically speaking, you don't change from a successful boat into an unsure boat when the waters are this fucking bad. That's getting ready to happen. Okay. Second thing is that battery technology. Now, Chinko, which is somebody I follow on Twitter, makes a great
Yeah,
case about this, and OJ also makes a great case on this, which is you don't necessarily have to do the battery tech, because, and what I mean by that, guys, is battery tech has bottlenecked as of 2016. There has been no discernible breakthroughs in battery technology, none, zero. There's been no progress on batteries, and without the progress on a better battery, you can't get better battery life. And so, if you increase the specs of the Switch, you're going to have less battery life, which means your console is not viable in an open market. That's one of the problems.
mm,
Now, according to people, engineers like Chinko and people like OJ, they say Chinko says they can do it with the chips themselves, which generate less power. So they don't do it on the battery end, they do it on the chip efficiency end.
yeah.
OJ says there's something called DLSS technology, which I'm not familiar with, that could
You
essentially
don't know what
be.
DLSS
I
is?
don't know what DLSS is.
Even
I,
after like the
I
past 3 years, you don't know
no,
what DLSS is?
I'm a boomer,
You
man.
haven't been watching enough Switch 2 videos.
Yeah, no, I don't
You
watch.
haven't been PC gaming enough.
I haven't been PC, and yeah, I play Morrowind and fucking Fear and Hunger on PC, and
You've been
Baldur's
playing
Gate.
Baldur's
I,
Gate.
I
Come
do play
on.
Baldur's Gate. I know, but essentially, it's like the it's like Diavolo stand power. It just works.
Yeah,
It's like
I
magic.
will give you an example of what DLSS is because
Okay,
I've used it before on my PC.
all right,
So basically, I got God of War on Steam, right, on my
right,
PC. So I was running the game at 1440p on my 1440p monitor,
okay,
but I was running it with DLSS balanced. So what it was doing is it was probably running the game at 1080p. So it was giving me extra frames with 1080p. Like, so I put like unlimited frames, right? So if I was playing the game natively without DLSS at 1440p, maybe it would have been in like 60, 70 FPS, right? But with DLSS
right,
on, it was giving me an AI upscaled version of 1440p. It was natively running at 1080, upscaled to
okay,
1440p, but it was running with the frames of 1080p. So it was giving me like 100 FPS,
okay.
right? So it's not true 1440p. If this is 4K, it won't be true 4K. It's just using AI to upscale the
Gotcha.
image.
So basically, it's the same. It basically could be the same fucking chip power, although it won't be. The chips will be better,
No,
great,
it won't be the same chip power.
right?
No, it'll be significantly more powerful.
But
I
also
think
the DLSS
natively,
will then pop it more.
yeah. So
Okay,
natively, it could be like a PS4, Xbox One power. With the DLSS magic,
that's all it needs. That's all it
it
needs.
could it could achieve PS4 Pro,
Okay.
maybe like scratching the surface of PS5. Basically, like I just think that the 60 FPS consistency will be there, and
So
that's all I need with
that's
Nintendo
all.
games
Yeah.
at this
No,
point.
it doesn't need. It's a portable system. It doesn't need to be a super powered system. So if they're
Yeah,
able to do that, that becomes more viable, certainly. But
yeah,
the other thing is, it's going to have to be backwards compatible. I would prefer it to use the NAND 4 cards, and if there's a way to make those backwards compatible with the NAND 3 cards, that would be phenomenal. But that's going to be an issue that I foresee. And then also the fact is, we're getting ready to go into a economic period where nobody has any fucking money. And so
yeah,
that's going to be it's going to be a real nasty couple of years for people.
yeah,
And God, I hope I'm wrong about that. But again, I do a sector rotation strategy that usually is solid, and I'm not doing as well as I used to do. Put it that way. and I'm
Yeah.
pretty savvy with this kind of stuff. So the fact that I'm taking a hit, I can only imagine what people with the 401ks are doing right
Mhm.
now, or getting ready to do. It's not good, and people like to say, like OJ and I often go back and forth on this because, like, well, yeah, but look at the pandemic, man. Got to look at the pandemic. That was an economic downturn, and gaming did fine. Yeah, cool. It also shut down all of gaming's competition. You couldn't go fucking outside.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah,
a little bit
exactly, yeah.
different. I would point more to 2008 and the fact that we lost 250 publishers in that first initial
Yeah,
HD era.
and you're seeing now a lot of game studios are shutting down, a lot of layoffs, a
Hmm.
lot of
Which,
failed projects that
yeah,
lead to a lot of layoffs. It's
which means
kinda
less
sad,
games,
yeah.
which means less games. And
Yeah, because where we are right now is we are in the era where games are coming out so much is because, like, we're getting a lot of the delayed games that were delayed from the pandemic into now, right?
right,
And they put so much money into all these games, so much money, and then they don't live up to the hype. They don't live up to the sales expectations. They just don't do well, and then
right.
it's like a bust for the companies. So yeah.
But yeah, absolutely. But no, to answer the question, I think we're going to get us at this point. I've amended my opinion. I do think that we're probably going to see a switch at the end of 2024. I still think in my heart of hearts they if they support it, Mario Wonder is going to come out and Mario Wonder is going to burn the whole fucking industry down in terms of its sales. It's gonna support this system for another year, guys. If if you do it, I used to be an investor. If you
Mhm.
do it in 2025. The system's got another year.
Yeah.
Give us another year.
Yeah. I remember you were saying, like, this is the year we got, 2D Mario and
A 2D
Tears of
Mario
the
and a Zelda
Kingdom.
and a Zelda. Yeah.
Yeah, this would have been the year to do it, and I still agree, yeah, this would have been the year to do it, but, like, if they wait a little longer and if they have some really good launch titles up their sleeve, which we don't know about, I think
Gonna be
I
hard
think
to
they're
beat
cooking
2D
with them.
Mario,
Yeah.
and it's gonna be hard to beat uh, Tears of the Kingdom. Those games would have
Yeah.
absolutely sold. Those would have sold hardware. Both of those.
Yeah, and that's why I don't think that, like, I think Metroid Prime 4 is going to be somewhere in that, like, early Switch 2 cycle, but I don't think it's gonna be the sole game to launch the system because it just can't sustain a system launch.
Metroid Prime
Metroid
4.
Prime
What?
4, as good as Metroid Prime 4 will be, and as good as it could be, and as good as it can be, it cannot. With the
Metroid Prime.
Metroid name, it just can't do it. It can't do what Zelda did with Breath of the Wild. It can't
Well, hold
get,
on.
like,
Well,
the
hold on here.
massive. Huh?
Hold
What'd
on
you
here.
say?
Metroid Prime 4. What is Metroid Prime 4? What is that?
I don't know, man. You tell me.
Metroid Prime 4. I mean, Metroid Prime 4 would be great, but there is no such game as Metroid Prime 4. I mean, I,
I
I remember. I
mean,
remember. It's kind of almost a false memory. I almost remember something. Wait a second. In 2017, wasn't there a? Oh, it's gone.
yeah,
It's gone. It must
yeah,
have just been my
yeah.
imagination.
It might have restarted development somewhere,
I sure
sometime.
fucking hope so. Here's what I hope for Metroid Prime 4. I hope they took it away from Sakamoto. That's step one. Get that game out of his
No,
fucking
yeah,
hands.
I don't think Sakamoto ever really works on the. Sakamoto is only the 2D guy. I think it's Tanabe who works on the Prime series.
Good.
So he's very
Good.
involved with Prime 4, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. That
Tanabe is very like if you look at a lot of retro interviews, they talk about how like involved Kensuke
okay.
Tanabe is and how very particular he is with certain features in the Prime trilogy. And I think
Metroid needs a fucking restraining order on Sakamoto. That's serious.
hey, but the Sakamoto was responsible for Dread,
No,
so I
no,
don't blame.
no, no, he wasn't. No, he wasn't. Mercury
Yeah,
Steam was responsible for
it
Dread.
was, but he waited till he got Mercury Steam, and he's like, "Hey, I'm gonna greenlight Metroid Dread with Mercury Steam."
I will not give that guy credit for shit after Other M.
Oh yeah.
No, he
Oh
gets
god.
no credit. He almost destroyed that goddamn franchise. He gets no
Yeah.
credit. So,
Yeah.
I hold him in the contempt that I don't. I never even held Eiji Aonuma in as much contempt as him. Eiji Aonuma irritated the fuck out of me. Eiji
Yeah.
Aonuma made
Oh,
me
Wind Waker and
rage.
Twilight
Yeah,
Princess.
yes, Eiji Aonuma made me rage. But he never. But you know what he never did? He never just about destroyed his own franchise. That's something Eiji Aonuma
Yeah.
never did.
Yeah.
So kudos to that. But if he ever wants to make a game where he doesn't destroy a beloved character and world, then that would be phenomenal.
Yeah, I was not
Maybe
a fan
don't
of a lot of the things that Other M did. I never played the game, but it just does not look like a very
the
good
baby,
representation of Samus and Metroid.
the baby. What a load of shit. All
Yeah,
right, well,
that's not Samus to me.
no,
In
that's not
even a
Samus
very
to anybody except
yeah.
Sakamoto's weird ass, his bimbo ninja mommy with daddy issues. So,
Yeah.
all right, let's take a quick peek through comments here, and then yeah, well, we got so much more to talk about. We got digital game. Well, I'm gonna mark these down so we can talk digital games. We got cooking to talk about because you and I are both quite the chef with international cuisine. We're definitely gonna have to do a round three.
Yeah.
Xenoblade.
You know what's cool? You know what's cool is I'll tell you this. There's only two people in this world that I know, two people in this world I know who have made Tansak in their life. Only two people. Those two people are my mother and you.
That's cool as shit. I wouldn't
Yeah.
call my Don Sock though, because again, there wasn't enough lemon in it. It didn't quite pop the way I wanted it to, but I tried, and that's the important part. And next time it'll be
Yeah.
better. It'll be better next time. And
Yeah.
actually, I'll
I'm
probably
glad you used Tourdal though, because Tourdal is like the go-to. That's the way to go.
yeah,
Do you like
yeah.
actually make dal outside of using it for Dansak
Oh
though?
no, we've got an Indian market here that's
Mm,
it's called the Masala Mart. They do a
yeah.
terrific job. They make it homemade. And so you can
Nice,
buy it.
nice.
It's
That's good.
pricey, but it's oh god, it's well
Yeah.
worth it. Don't buy
Yeah.
the canned shit, folks. Yeah.
Yeah. No, no.
No.
Yeah, I make my own. I just put it in the pressure cooker,
Okay.
and let it like pressure cook inside of like this giant like kettle, bring it out, and then
Well, it's like beans,
I
dude.
don't know.
So
I
you
don't know
gotta
how to
soak it.
say it in English, but when you like cook your dal, you add like the extra like flavoring on top of it. That's what makes the dal like really good. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
whatever they do, it's terrific. Yeah, I would never try to do
Yeah.
my own because it never
Yeah.
turns out. It's always too hard or it's too um. It's like when I started first trying to cook rice. Same fucking thing. Couldn't cook rice worth a
Yeah.
shit. But over time, I got better at
You know what's another thing I like to cook is Japanese curry. Like I make it from scratch. I make the roux, like the big like doughy
it.
like
Ooh. Okay.
buttery
Yeah.
roux,
Oh God.
and then I like cook the chicken in there, and then I add the roux, and then it's like a nice thick curry, and then I like grate some apple in there. It's really good.
Well, my goal is to make the Persona 5 soja roast curry. So
That's it. I'll send you the recipe right now
you have
because
the
that's the
recipe
one I
for
use.
that?
Yeah,
Oh,
I
nice.
that's the one I use.
Coffee
That's
and
the one.
curry, baby.
Yeah, it's basically like the Japanese curry that I make is literally someone went to Japan
Ah,
and went to a lot of like similar coffee and curry cafes, right? And they're
right.
like, this is as close to Sojiro Sakura's curry that I'm gonna get.
Okay. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they made it.
So
I'm trying to
let's
find it in my bookmarks, but I'll find it and I'll send it to you.
sounds good. So it says so let's look at the comments real quick. So somebody
Yeah,
shouts out Swice Senpai, which yeah, cool dude on Twitter for sure.
yeah, awesome
There's a lot
dude.
of aspects of Xenoblade Chronicles 2 which I've contemplated upon. I wish more people. Yeah, we read that. Absolutely, Samuel. Um, Tony says I love Xenoblade Chronicle 2 ending as well, and our tastes usually align. Zoo. Looking forward to hearing your thoughts. Hopefully in the next couple weeks I'll have that for you guys. Don't forget about 14 Zoo, and yeah, this I didn't forget it, Mandy. I had to throw in Walker. It's a magnificent story. Um, I don't think Grimdark, and I also don't like Grimdark unless it has a real undercurrent of heroism. One of my favorite authors is David Gemmell, who often writes heroic tragedy but always retains the heroism. Tony, I'm writing that down. Always like good reading material. Um, my biggest complaints about he continues. My biggest complaints about Final Fantasy 16 are pacing, poor side quest design, and the lack of a party character customization. It's like an Asura's Wrath RPG, he says. And I'm not familiar with that one, but definitely we'll take a look at that again, writing some of these terms down because I always like to know, look at
Yeah.
what people are saying.
I don't
Um,
know if Asura's Wrath will be your cup of tea, but I think you should check it out.
okay. Mad Belmont says, "Nice. Hope you reach that soon, bud. I'm doing good. Just got done with some cool stuff in the writing department that I can't talk about just yet. Yeah,
Exciting.
Awesome. We're looking forward to that, Belmont. Your last video on the gateway to Castlevania was a banger. Another guy everybody should subscribe to. Mad Kaiser says awesome, and again, everybody sub to Mad Kaiser. Go show him some
Yeah,
love.
Matt Kaiser's been shouting out a collab I did with him about the Xenoblade series, so you guys should check that out as well. It was me and a couple
So
other creators. We did a retrospective of the Xenoblade
okay,
series, and that
so
was a lot of fun.
Miss Mandy says Morrowind gets pretty racy too. It seems that's
Yeah.
not true, Mandy. That's not true. That's something I did by mistake. To give the chat the story about that, I am starting. So Mungan Lude is a name that Phil One Up Collects gave me in one of Cold Night streams. Out of no, and of course I'm reinforcing this because I play Fear and Hunger, which is a game that has all kinds of like dongs and nudity and shit in it. And then, of course, the fucking Morrowind mod. I modded a body mod that I thought was the underwear version of the mod. And so I'm
Yeah.
playing the game on stream, and lo and behold, here's this nude Nord standing in the middle of nowhere. And Mandy just starts busting out laughing, like, oh, here's Mungan loot again, showing more nudity. And it's like, I swear to God, I didn't even mean to do that. But so, and Mandy also says, I also agree about 16 huge high points interspersed with very slow points. Yeah,
Yeah.
Matt Kaiser says, I think Xenoblade Chronicle 2's pacing is the worst out of the other entries, or at least one of the
Yeah.
worst. Though
Mhm.
16 does have some pacing issues that I odd out, he says. He says, actually, Mad Kaiser continues, most of the modern Final Fantasy games have weirdly pacing issues. 13 with the linearity and switching out, 15 with its open world sidetracking, 7 with its quest, which we addressed. Yep. Wall Market was fantastic, and Honeybee Inn, yeah, that was it. Yeah, when I was talking about the Gold Saucer, which we haven't seen yet. Yeah, Wall Market's Honeybee Inn, Chef's Kiss. Mad Kaiser says. Tony says, hot take: Baldur's Gate 3 spits in the face of Baldur's Gates 1 and 2, especially making
Mhm.
the novelization canon and invalidating all the player ball spawn stories. It should have been a new Dungeons and
Okay.
Dragon game by Larian. Oh shit! Oh, that is a nuclear take,
Oh,
Tony.
that broke your heart.
Not, I would say broke my heart, but I'm interested in it because that's actually fucking true. But oh, I'm loving Baldur's Gate 3 so much. So Tony, I mean, I guess we'll have to talk about that later, Tony. But are you not liking Baldur's Gate 3 because of that, or is that a deal breaker? I'm kind of curious about that. Cold Knights says, "Oh no, we're gonna have to part ways here about the Pokemon." So yeah, Cold Knights enjoyed Scarlet Violet, and for what it's worth, Jay, I did too. Um,
Mhm.
I definitely enjoyed that too. It's just that we got to have some standards, man. We got to have some
Yeah.
standards in some of these games. And Mad Kaiser says it's kind of how I sort of feel with Sonic, more like Nish with
Yeah.
Zelda. Yep. Pikmin 4 sold exceptionally well. Still is, though. Still #1 on Japan charts. It's been incredible for sure. Samuel talks about games. Absolutely. Just the Jim says that I'm just so sad Xeno X gets overlooked. Best open
Yeah.
world game I've ever seen in a video game, period, Jim says. And then Mario Sunshine gets an inordinate amount of hate, Cold Knight says. And I promised you, Jay, I promised you that I have to play it because it's on Super Mario 3D All Stars, which is a game I am fucking dreading more than anybody knows. I gotta play 64, Sunshine, and Galaxy for one review. I'm such a pitiful bitch on that. I don't want to do it. Oh, I don't want to play those games, but okay. I promise you I will though. The world thing is spot on, hence why I think with Sonic Team, if Frontiers gets a sequel or whatever, the next mainline Sonic, they truly expand upon the open zone ideas than just islands. And try to have design of it integrated into open zones organically instead of just having floating platforms and rails. That's a pet peeve of mine. It's part of why I hate 3D Mario so much. All these zones and levels just floating in the goddamn void instead of being part of a coherent world. Fuck out of here with that. Mario 3D World did that shit. Like all of a sudden, I'm in the ice world. So I'm in the Sprixie Kingdom. And of course, there's a fucking ice world because Nintendo can't do anything original with their fucking Mario games till recently. And so I select a level in the ice world and I'm in some African savannah in the ice world. No coherency, no cohesion. Everything's just floating in a fucking void. Get your shit
Yeah.
together, Nintendo. Yeah, he says Switch 2 definitely coming in 2024. Lap my ass off. Yeah, probably. Probably. Yeah, Mungunzo blown the fuck out on that, most likely. But we will have to see. It's okay to be wrong, but please note that don't expect any humility out of me. I'm going to acknowledge I was wrong, and then we're going to move right into the next discussion, which is where they smart to do it. So, yeah, I have no shame. Just know that. I mean, there are credible leaks. Yep, there are credible leaks. You're absolutely right. Yeah, Zoo blown the fuck out. Um, let's see. I hate giving Mercury Steam any sort of credit after what they did to Castlevania. So see,
Yeah.
me and Belmont have a spite off. I'm
No,
spiteful toward
that's very understandable because
yeah,
I
no,
heard
yeah.
Mercury Steam did some very weird things with
Right.
Castlevania.
So I'm spiteful towards Sakamoto because of what he did to Other M, and he's spiteful to Mercury Steam because of what they did to Lords of Shadow.
Yeah,
I get it,
Lords
man.
of
I
Shadow. Yeah,
absolutely get it. I did the same thing using a big saucepan, used the lentils. Yeah, lentils are those little things are a bitch to cook, right?
yeah.
That curry sounds amazing. Yeah, everybody
I
should.
I sent you guys the link,
Yeah,
by the
not
way.
yeah,
I sent it to
yeah,
both you and Mandy.
yeah.
So
Nish's curry looks delicious, and everybody should try Dansak once in their life.
yeah,
Um,
Dhansak is very interesting. Like when my mom first used to make it, I never really liked it. But when
it's
she
a
told
full
me that it had
yeah.
chicken in it, it was funny. When she told me she would add chicken or mutton to it, then I would be like, oh, now I want
Mutton's
to
where
eat
yeah.
it.
If you can get some good mutton, God, that would
Yeah.
define it.
Yeah,
I
my
used
my favorite thing ever is like a
typically I'll
good goat curry. I think I've
yeah lamb or goat.
shown you pictures.
Yeah, that's what
I
I
think I've
usually.
shown you pictures of like my lamb do piazza and stuff.
Oh God, it looks so
That's fun
good.
to
Yeah.
make. Yeah,
And then I couldn't get into Baldur's Gate 3, sadly. It's not for everybody. And you want to talk about a game that has a high learning curve. All of those Western RPGs, for sure, man. I will give you an extra credit if Switch 2 comes out in 2025. Yeah, and here's the thing, and this is what I tell people online all the time, and we'll end on this note. Samuel talks about games. Don't be afraid to throw out your take. Never be afraid to do that. Because
yeah,
here's the thing: if you're wrong, you're just another wrong asshole on the internet. But if you're
yeah,
right, you look like a fucking sage. So, and there will be times you're right, and then guess what all these people do, whether it's RGT or whether it's OJ or whether it's me. Guess what we all do? We're going to highlight the times we're right to make ourselves to pump ourselves up. We're absolutely going to do that 100%. Now, if you remind me I'm wrong, I'll be like, "Oh yeah, I was wrong there for sure." But I'm not going to fucking talk about it. I'm just going to talk about, okay, now was it smart for them to do that in 2024? That's all I'm going to do.
yeah,
I'm just going to move that fucking goalpost, baby. No shame.
yeah.
But in the back of your head, just keep score. I was wrong if that happens.
You don't like to remind people, hey, I was wrong.
Nobody likes to do that. Yeah, you won't see me doing it. But if you want to tell me
Yeah.
I was wrong, I'll acknowledge the
But
wrongness.
but what's yeah, it's good to accept and move on, but it's not good to be like, "Oh, I was never wrong," kind of thing.
That's yeah.
But
Don't
I
fall.
know you
Yeah.
won't do that.
No, no,
It's
no.
just it's silly people online always
Well,
do that.
it's not
Make it
really.
seem like they were
It's not.
always right.
It's not silly at all. Actually, it's cognitive dissonance. It's a very,
Yeah,
very human thing. It's a very human thing. But when you see yourself holding on to an opinion that all the facts have proven wrong, it's time to check yourself because cognitive dissonance is a very painful mental state to be in. I would
yeah,
prefer to look like an asshole and be wrong than to stay in cognitive dissonance personally.
yeah,
If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. And then I can move on instead of being in this state of mental torture where I just try to be like, no, it's not me. No, it's everybody else. It's not me. No,
yeah.
sometimes you're just fucking wrong. And I've been wrong a lot lately. So I'm due for another rainy clown, I guess.
Yeah,
All righty. Well, I think that just about does it. So again, everybody subscribe to Nishquik. I'm gonna also put a link here for Jay. We're gonna be, at least I'm gonna be. I don't know if Nish is gonna stay up, but I am also gonna put in a link here to Cold Knight's Twitch. So we're gonna be all going over there for the after party, and we're gonna kind of raid Jay now.
we're gonna
So
raid.
anybody who's still here, if you're still crazy enough to be here instead of being in Jay's live stream, go to Jay's live stream now. And we're going to go ahead and end the chat. I hope all of you lovable people have a wonderful night. Nish, thank you so much. It's been a hell of a conversation. We'll definitely do a round two. We're going to have to.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Thank you so much for having me. It was a lot of fun, and thank you
anytime, man.
everyone in the chat for sticking around. It was fun chatting with you all. Yeah.
Hell yeah, man. Been a good time. But
Um,
let's get out of here. Let's all go to Jay's. We're all going party at Jay's.
all
Twitch
right.
TV. Later, guys.
Later. Later.